things that I can say about this and express, but one of the wonderful things about Gatherverse is I don't have to. I am not alone. And there are many people that can express these sentiments, and quite candidly, even better. We're so thankful to be able to assemble with you today. We hope that you tell a neighbor and a friend, a stranger. Many of you are assembled with your families and the ones you care about. We hope that you'll find value in what will be expressed, because as quick as it comes is as quick as it goes. And our next roundtable discussion is based on feeding all of humanity. How do we do this as innovators? We haven't taken a Hippocratic oath as those in the medical theater take, our frontline service women and men, but a commitment of the heart nonetheless, with the inherent responsibility to give to others with care, compassion, and generosity. May our gather be well. In a few words or expressions from our friends at Pico, who've helped us to be able to afford to turn our lights on in our studio to power such expressions. Thank you.
Hello and welcome to Gatherverse Food Summit, Day 2. And what an amazing introduction from Christopher there, very heartfelt as well. My name is Russell. I'm going to be the moderator for this roundtable discussion. And it's great to also have the panelists with us. As I can see, there's technical difficulties going on. So in the meantime, while the technical difficulties happen, let's do the introduction where the roundtable discussion is going to be about feeding all humanity towards global nourishment, sustainability, and food security. So I'm very excited for this roundtable discussion, and we're going to do quick introductions from each of the panelists, depending on who joins us and who not. So we'll start with Alia, then we'll go to Andrea, then we'll go across to James, and then hopefully Dr. Morris and Orestes, as long as they don't have technical difficulties. So over to you, Alia. Please introduce yourself. And also, can I have all other panelists to mute their microphones as well, so we don't have any interference with the discussion. Alia, over to you.
Thank you so much, Russell. My name is Alea Harris. I'm based here in Burbank, California. I am a strategic storytelling consultant, former chef, and my goal in life is to be able to love people into the highest versions of themselves by helping them better participate in their transformations. I do that through leading them through story and helping them lead themselves and lead others and share those stories in corporate environments and from the stage.
Amazing, and thank you for joining us, Alia. Andrea, by the way, I have to say, Andrea, great moderating yesterday. Thank you for moderating the roundtable discussion. But please, for those who don't know who you are, please introduce yourself and do your introduction, basically.
Thank you, Russell. A pleasure to be here. My name is Andrea Camargo. I'm the founder and storyteller of Refi Collective. We are based in Bogota, Colombia, and I studied veterinary medicine. And then I switched into the business world because I saw the connection, or let's say the disconnection between humanity and nature, and the story of food that we tell ourselves. We think food comes from the fridge and from the supermarket. And when you see the reality, it's completely different. So that's why I did that switch, because I wanted to create a business that reconnects us to nature and to that let's say oneness that it's surrounding us today. So thank you so much, and happy to listen to all your stories.
Andrea, it's a pleasure having you with us, and thank you for joining us once again as well. James, you are also a person we've seen multiple times, but please introduce yourself to everyone who doesn't know who you are.
Hey, Russell. See, I got your name right this time, right?
Oh yes, bang on there.
You know, as the mindful guy, right? Focus. So, anyways, but thank you so much. And I honestly, I had to wipe my eyes from what Christopher has said. It was just the sentiments, the music. It's all about the connection. It was just beautiful. So, I am James Welniak, and I am the director of mindfulness and focus with Cup Advisory. I'm advising clients to unravel and mitigate the riddle of our age, and it's how artificial am I?
Okay.
And this is accomplished with a modernized serenity prayer playbook called A Mindful Relationship with Information. It's a practice and methods and tools that has made AA very, very successful, but we are now in the age of artificial food, ingredients, content, and now we have intelligence. And so I'm also the face of screen addiction, recovery, and prevention. And what I share is that this was me in 2023.
Oh, you might want to lift it a little bit higher because the right.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. That's
and
better.
I could not, guys, I could not stop. In the worst moment of my life as a high performer, former Deloitte, I used to use my laptop on the toilet. I was that kind of a consultant. So I understand what people are going through and how difficult it is to look away. And so I teach my clients how to train your brain and how to get back into oneness. And that was, Andrea, you and I speak the same language, is that when you connect with self, your intuition, use your intuition, people, not your screen. And that's what I teach my clients. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us, James, and pleasure having you with us as well. And thank you for the brief explanation that you gave there. Dr. Morris, please introduce yourself. And obviously, I know who you are, but tell the people, who are you, Dr. Morris?
I am Dr. Messina Morris, Dr. M.O.M. or Molder of Minds. I am a biomolecular chemist by training. I am a mother of 5 sons.
Wow,
I have
incredible.
one son who has profound autism. I'm a wife of 27 years, an innovator who builds metaversities, but I'm a caregiver. I'm also a special needs sibling. I know what it means to run a household where nutrition is not theoretical, but it is essential for survival. Balancing family and caregiving as well as leadership and technology has really shaped how I see global food systems. Feeding humanity is not just a macroeconomic problem for me. It is a maternal, scientific, spiritual, and deeply human one. And when one child in my home doesn't have what he needs, the whole house feels it. And the same is true for humanity. So I am just happy to be here to discuss food. And as a college professor who sees young people who actually live in a food desert in the west end of Atlanta every single day, try to nourish their minds, bodies, and spirits, it's important for them to have a voice and someone who speaks up and advocates for them and for the nutritious things that they need, not just to feed their, like I said, their minds, but their bodies and their souls. Thank you for having me.
I honestly appreciate you joining us, Dr. Morris, and also what you do as a wife and a mother of 5 and everything. So incredible. Orestes, please also introduce yourself and tell everyone who you are, Orestes.
Thank you very much for the welcoming, Russell. A long time no see. Greetings
Yes,
to all the
absolutely.
panelists, and greetings to all the globe of the world that are now tuned in the Gatherverse summit. So my name is Orestis Spirou. I come from Greece. I'm located in the Netherlands. My background is in mechanical engineering, systems thinking, and biosystems engineering, combined with information technology. Uh, I'm responsible for the founding of Gatherverse, which is a company located in the Netherlands that is focusing on the digital transformation of a cross variety of sectors, from agriculture, healthcare, education, and arts. I am a music producer, the drummer, and the founder of a rock band called Go Fuzzy. And also, I'm a painter myself. Throughout my career, I've changed a lot of jobs. One of the jobs that I had to follow was also a sous chef, that I was trying to also deliver my knowledge and all the stories that are coming from my grandmother and my mother, because we are located in Greece. It's the center of the Mediterranean diet, which is well known as one of the most healthiest diets due to the high polyphenolic level of olive oil and all this type of
You're making me
ingredients that
hungry,
we're using.
Orestes. You're making me hungry.
So I've been exploring the digital transformation of food, but also food as a way for survival, but also a way of creative practices. And I'm really looking forward to explore today's roundtable.
Well, thank you for joining us, Orestes, and your multiple of occupations you had there. Absolutely incredible. And last but not least, I'll introduce myself. My name is Russell. I'm the Global Affairs Director at Gatherverse, also the co-founder of Just Verify. And Just Verify is focused on building the trust infrastructure for AI. So we focused on verification and trust when it comes to AI and making sure that it's aligned with human values. And also when it comes to the behavior and the performance of these models, and making sure that's in continuous alignment, both from a humanity point of view, but also from organizations point of view, also individual point of view, basically just values in general in a nutshell. So that's what I do. But let's get straight into the discussion of feeding all humanity towards global nourishment, sustainability, and food security. So Alia, we're going to start with yourself because I can see how ready you are and how enthusiastic you want to get involved. Yeah, there we go, Alia. Come on. Right.
Woo, woo, woo. I'm so ready for this. Bring it on, Russell.
All right. Question one, Alia. How can feeding all humanity truly be achieved when many still face hunger in the world? Over to you.
Well, it's so funny. I don't think I'm going to solve world hunger in the next minute or so, but I will give
God
you
damn
my
it.
thoughts.
Why?
I know that is what everyone was expecting from me on today. I actually think that world hunger it's not a resource issue. It's a heart issue and a mindset issue. The only reason why we are not able to feed everyone is because if we look into the collective heart, I don't think we want to. If we wanted to, as a collective human element, spirits having this human experience, our humanity is saying no. There is competition, which means that I need to have my food, my resources, my things, and build up as high as I can my mountain of riches and food and all of this wonderfulness, because somehow that makes me better, greater, closer to my goals, look better to others. But the problem with that, the problem with leading from a competitive perspective and an ego-led perspective, is that we deny the truth. The truth is that there is no competition when we are able to truly see everyone as equals. So addressing the food issue, yes, we should make sure food is healthy, grown healthily, readily available, food deserts. I'm very aware of that. But for me, getting to the core of the issue is about addressing the human elements of our society that are preventing us from getting on one accord. Those include addressing ego. Those include addressing the need to compete and the scarcity mindset that is prevalent across the world.
Mm.
So if we do that, we are then able to step into a higher perspective, one that understands the truth, which is there is more than enough to go around, and that our job is to make it so. Our job is to share and support the other spirits having human experiences that we come in contact with on a regular basis.
You bring up an interesting point earlier. I mean, I think also, technology could potentially play a good part in this, right? When it comes to blockchain technology and AI, and how that can help with this as well when it comes to efficiency of distribution food, and also, when it comes to, shipping containers and all that kind of sort of thing. I definitely think that the technology is going to maybe play a role in this. Could we even potentially, I mean, I've even seen in some cases, people being able to print 3D food off, right? When it comes to 3D printers and being able to eat like a burger, which is not even real, but it's been printed on the 3D printer, and then you've been able to eat it and still get nourishment. Whether that's actually 100% nourishment or not, that's a completely different thing. But my question to you, I guess, to kind of like follow up what you're saying earlier is, in a nutshell, do you believe what I just said could potentially be true as well, or not from your point of view?
I definitely believe what you said that can be true. Technology and AI has a place in the entire supply chain, from farm to mouth. However, I think that the part that we are all ignoring is technology is only as good as its user. AI has innate biases in it against people of color, against women, because of the user input, the data set that it is using to give us our outputs. So I think in conjunction with using AI and tools in technology to move physical goods from place to place, why not think differently as well? Why not be able to use AI tools to help people understand the larger system that they are a part of, help them see the lack of the need for true competition, help them meditate more effectively, help them build communities and change narratives and role play with themselves and the AI tool around what does it truly mean to be the person that I think I am. Because no one wakes up in the morning and says, I am evil and I'm going to take food out of your mouths. No one does that. Well, I don't think most people do that.
No,
What
not
we say is,
not unless you're crazy.
No. And so we're just going to put those people like over there. We're not talking about them. We're talking about most people say, I am a good human. And then as soon as you leave church, you cuss out your kids in the parking lot. Or as soon as you finish praying, you walk by that homeless person on the street. Does that mean you're not a good person? No, absolutely not. I still believe you're a good person. But how much better would it be to be fully in alignment with what that means and be given tangible steps, programs that AI can build for you to step into a mindset that makes community, that makes global connection, that makes humanity a higher priority for people on a larger scale? Because then I believe we could better power supply chain technology with better inputs that are more inclusive, that minimize scarcity and help us move to a different place.
Okay, James, let's bring you onto this conversation and thank you. You did bring up some really good points earlier, so thank you for that. But James, I saw you commenting behind the scenes. When I did my 3D printer comment, he was like heavy on protein and lean on fat. James, please join the discussion. What are your thoughts on what me and Ali have said so far, and also the question as well?
Yeah, I think it's a powerful one. And what stands out to me is that, humanity has it in the wrong order. So we prioritize and think that money is a human right, but we're wrong. Nutrition, access to food, real food that's grown from Mother Earth, not processed in a lab.
Mm.
And so when I talk with clients about artificial, we have artificial ingredients. Look what alcohol did to the world. Look what alcohol has done to the world. So you have
Yeah.
alcohol, that was the original, the first artificial, and then we have artificial ingredients in medicine. So I actually have my clients do a quick hands raised. How in the last 24 hours, how many of us have consumed an artificial ingredient? Whether that's a supplement, something that was produced in a lab that did not come from the ground. Also, how many of us did we interface with artificial content, a device, a screen? And also, Alaya, you were talking about AI. How many of us right now, we are talking, having a human connection through artificial intelligence? And so we are all artificial. But the question is, the back to the original question, we have to treat nutrition, and I mean nutrient dense food as a human right, not money. And I thought it was interesting that money was put first yesterday, because we all think that we're fighting and money doesn't matter. From a spiritual perspective, we created money. Money does not grow from trees. I'm sorry, that's not a thing. Food does, nutrition does. And until we get that reversed, that is our problem. That's how we solve this. It's a mindset.
Yeah, I mean, food is obviously fundamental for every human, doesn't matter who you are.
Real food, Russell, real food.
True, yes. And also at the same time, food is also important, not only just for your nutrition and for your health and everything like that, but also food is fundamentally important for every person on the planet.
Connection too. Communal. It's think about you were just talking about Orestes for Greek. I love Greek food. That's that's community. That's tradition. That's our heritage, right?
Yeah.
And that's all being lost too, because it's so quick. Because that picture that I showed you guys, I was probably about 99% artificial. I stopped cooking for myself. I stopped going out and enjoying picking out food and actually enjoying the process, the creative process, going and getting a recipe book, doing the research. These are the things that I talked about clients, so simple, about just the act of communion around food. And that is lost. And that is a spiritual, that's human, sitting around in a campfire, grilling, chopped rabbits, while we are trying to survive winter. That's real. Not going to the grocery store, as Andrea said. Young people have lost that. They think it's Uber Eats. That's crazy. I'm not kidding. I have a teenage client that and their adult father didn't realize that, and it's like I don't, I wanted to laugh too, but I'm like, that became what I was. And so my entire body, and it's all about inflammation, guys. So when we introduce foreign objects to our body, like alcohol, I know I was having getting a serious problem with it, because I was self-medicating because my nervous system was so messed up because of screen time and phone-based lifestyle. It was taking me down. And that's really what's happening here, is that, we have so much artificial in our environment. And you go to other countries, like I was in Brazil. I was in Brazil for 10 days in October. They're 10 years behind the United States. You go into a restaurant and you see touching, you see eye contact, and I don't speak Portuguese. I'm awful. And so I was an observer at the airport,
Right.
and I just sat in my head and I watched and I studied and I saw, and I was like, it made me sad, because the human connection in the United States is so drastically broken because of screens and screen time and the phone-based lifestyle.
I mean, you do bring up an interesting point with obviously processed foods and how everything is processed. And I mean, even here, like, I know there's different regulations obviously for different countries too, and how obviously food is regulated. I mean, especially for the UK and the EU is different to the US, for example. But yeah,
it's like high fructose. Like high fructose, for example, is illegal in Brazil. But it's because we're the Midwest. I'm from Ohio. We love our corn, and it's everywhere.
Okay, so let's I'll tell you what, actually, let's bring Andrea into this conversation. Andrea, from your point of view, obviously we've been speaking about many things, right? We've spoken about AI, we've spoken about processed foods, we've spoken about the lovely Brazil, right, and how the lovely food is over there. From your point of view, and Andrea, and you're from South America too. From your point of view, and I'm just going to ask you this specific question as well. What role does micronutrition or nutrient deficiency play in the hidden hunger crisis, and how can that be addressed?
I love this question. Thank you for addressing it. I think there is big connection between the nutrient density of the food we grow and the food we eat, and life below the ground. So if we grow food in a desert, even if we have water and nitrogen and all these different, let's say, elements for the plant to grow, it's completely different from growing it in a rich soil that is connected with mycelium, different microorganisms, because we as humans, probably we are 50% humans and 50% microorganisms, right?
Mm.
So we are kind of uh, um, symbiont, or an organism that collaborates with many millions of others in
Yeah.
the same moment we are speaking. And so if we keep making our food more artificial, we're gonna start losing that microbiome that connects us to a healthy ecosystem. And so bringing a little bit of science into the conversation, and the discoveries that we've made into regenerative agriculture, for example, which are very interesting, because an apple grown in a regenerative soil that doesn't use artificial chemicals, but creates this cycle of getting the nutrients from the air, because in the air we have most of it's nitrogen. So plants kind of bring this nitrogen to the ground. It
Yeah.
is processed, and the plants also, let's say, they get the sugars from the microorganisms, and then they start exchanging information, they exchange energy, they exchange these nutrients that increase the density and the nutrition of the food we eat. So if we want to be healthy and keep enjoying delicious food, because healthy food is more tasty as well.
That is true.
Eating this delicious food, and in Latin America we have very fertile soils, but they are being degraded because we want to put soybean to feed the cows of other nations, and these cows are eaten by maybe 2% of the population. So as Leia said, kind of we are creating this system that creates accumulation, scarcity, in order to trade and create a market economy that only benefits some of the actors. And then that system reinforces the tragedy of the commons. And so we start creating our ecosystem because some people want to have all this abundance accumulated. But it's like if one tree of the whole forest wants to accumulate all the carbon, then all the forest dies. It has to be the energy has to be decentralized and distributed. And I think this is kind of the mindset shift we need to start to bring into the conversation in our food systems.
No, I completely agree with that. And it just makes me think about the whole organic versus non-organic as well. And also it makes me think about when I work out at the gym and that, I want to be, for example, I like eggs, right? Because there's a lot of protein in them. And I want to make sure that I get the protein and the nutrients in. And if I don't have fresh eggs or fresh chicken or the right balance in my diet, right, that can misalign my body, and then it's like, okay, well, I haven't got enough nutrients now to repair the muscles, so I need to get the right nutrients in. So when you're talking about organic and not organic, or even like redistributing the system, like how you're saying, that is actually extremely important. And hopefully we can get less of this processed stuff out. I mean, it even makes me think, actually, sorry, just to kind of go off a little bit on a tangent as well, but it also makes me think about bottled water and how there's mostly plastic in bottles of water versus, having water like fresh out the, I don't know, the lake or whatever, or even just filtered through the actual pipes. So again, to your point, Andrew, I completely agree with what you're saying, and we do need to redo the system, so to speak, in terms of, okay, how can we get rid of this, lot of this process out? How can we make it more organic, more higher protein, so to speak, or higher nutrients when it comes to vitamins and minerals? And how can we make sure we get that in our bodies? I completely agree with you, Andrea. Orestes, sorry, what do you want to say, Andrea?
No, I just wanted to add that food is also kind of, it depends of all of us, the definition of food. For example, I don't eat animals or animal-based foods. For more than 10 years, I've been plant-based.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And
Fair enough.
For me, the food comes from the ground, but for other people, it comes from animals. For other people, it comes from mushrooms. So it's also kind of, how do we define food? And that also comes part of our culture and ourselves.
That is very true. And thank you for sharing it, Andrea. And obviously, I was just sharing my personal experience, of course. This is my personal point of view. But Orestes, let's bring you into this conversation. What role does micronutrient deficiency play in the hidden hunger crisis, and how can that be addressed from the Greek side of things and from your point of view as a professional chef from your expertise?
Yeah, I'm not longer a chef. I used to do that in order to obtain some income to continue studying here and support myself. But I've been cooking a lot throughout my career, and it was a way to support myself. Yes, we have seen that currently the food systems are in their limits. There are resource scarcity and climatary change are pushing the system, combined with the geopolitical crisis, into their limits. So there are multiple ways to tackle this type of micronutrient deficiency. First of all, combining archaeological knowledge from societies that they are living in agricultural areas is the first way. Extreme monocropping practices they have led us to where we are now by obtaining all the nutrients from Mother Earth and also not incorporating intercropping practices in order to leverage and regain the inputs from the earth to our end products. I'm pretty sure that knowledge, and more specifically, I will bring a small example. Back in the days, I used to learn all the recipes from my mother and my grandma, as I told you, which were based on historical, let's say, recipes that they have been out in the Greek history, either from, let's say, religious practices, for example, fasting for 40 days before Easter, or obtain put in place a diet that takes the leverage of all nutrients and all combination. For example, rice and lentils, mushrooms, wild herbs collected from the mountain, either for teas or like to put them into Greek pies, as we say. So I believe in a system that it's sustainably driven, based on regenerative agriculture, but also the combination of regenerative agriculture with the current and future technological disruptions. When I'm referring to technological disruptions, I'm referring to AR, AI, why not quantum computing also, in sense of sensing and also predicting the future of sustainable crops, and also nutrients and combination of nutrients. And as I told you, the small example that I want also to bring was that we have to learn how to use also technology to create recipes. For example, you might use AI to create recipes based on an image from the leftover food that you have at your fridge, and a text prompt in an AI chatbot that please provide me the right combinations in order to detox from this type of bad habit, as James mentioned before. So I really believe in a circular approach that has to be taken. And also
Okay.
we have to preserve the knowledge that has been lost, either for cultivation of mushrooms or for cultivation of other crops. I wanted to conclude, I was very lucky that I've been here in Wageningen, which is the center of the agricultural knowledge, because we have one of the greatest agricultural ranked universities, and I've been very lucky to learn people and cultures from all around the world, and also cook like from all the places of the world, from Africa, Curacao, Paramaribo, the Amazon, Colombia, like I cannot, Peru, all the nationalities. So everyone had their own story to bring with the food. So we're talking about connection, as you mentioned earlier, and also what is the right thing to do in order for not a single soul to be starving in the world.
I first of all, there was a lot said there, but second of all, I do believe what you're saying is very correct, right? Can AI potentially come up with new sort of recipes that you have just from your fridge, like how you're saying, or could it even potentially solve issues when it comes to how we can get rid of the bad nutrients and stuff which is included inside these processed foods? Could AI potentially solve that as well, like James was saying earlier? So I do think that technology could potentially play a big role here, but then the question is kind of like, as we, it's kind of like how you use AI, not potentially, and it's also the data that it's trained on too, but that's a whole nother thing. But the point I'm saying is in your day-to-day life and in your personal life, at least from a personal level, you can at least be able to, decide from your point of view, okay, what have I got here? Okay, I got butter, milk, flour, whatever. All right, cool. I can make some bread, for example, right? So I completely agree with what you're saying. But yeah, there's a lot that kind of goes into that of how do we solve this massive issue. So, Dr. Morris, let's bring you on this conversation. A lot has been said so far. I know you did disconnect briefly, but obviously you're back with us once again, and hopefully you won't have any more technical difficulties, of course. But the question for you, Dr. Morris, is how can crisis-proof food systems be built around the world for the long run? So we've been speaking about technology and AI and stuff like that. Could that potentially be the solution to this? Or could it potentially be like how Andrew was saying earlier, where we need to recreate the systems, redistribute it, and be able to have more, nutrients, so to speak, from the ground? Like, what are your thoughts on everything that's been discussed, and also this particular question?
Honestly, we are overfed in the United States, to be honest, but we are undernourished. So micro nutrient deficiency does play a huge role. As a mother to a son who has autism, I see how much the need for nutrient dense food exists. So, as much as my child may eat or have limited or sensory feeding needs, just like most people, we tend to eat the things that we love. That doesn't mean that we're getting the nutrients that we actually need from them. And so the mirror of the world that we see is based on all these neural connections that don't exist because there's brain fog, there is attention deficits, there's focus issues, there's a lack of persistence in completing day-to-day tasks or executive functioning, including stamina and just mental exhaustion that I see as an educator plays out in real time, because while we're fed, we're malnourished in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. And so when you think about all of the ways that we've tried to fortify foods, that has not been able to actually crisis proof our food systems.
Mhm.
One, we need to focus more on decentralizing food systems and making sure that there aren't single points of failure within regional food hubs, that we start building different types of infrastructure and train people on how to grow their own foods and sustain their own land. I think we have moved so far from understanding where food comes from and how it actually feeds us. And as a chemist, I think it's really important to realize that everything that you interact with in your actual natural environment does affect your cells. It does affect your biology. And we have somehow forgotten that everything that we ingest or anything that we touch, whether it is being transdermal, so like lotions you put on, soaps you put on, the makeup that I even might have on my face, to things that your children are exposed to in terms of the toys that they play with and the dyes that
Mm,
are in their candies or like autism, likes to chew on things or have fidgets or those kinds of things. You just think about the chemicals that we use in our home, the air fresheners, the candles, the all of these things are also being ingested into our body and they are creating and blocking our abilities to absorb certain nutrients. And I had an opportunity to do dissolution studies and look at leaky gut syndrome as a cause of um, all of the different ailments that we have from Parkinson's to autism to ADHD. And it showed that we're not even able to absorb the actual pure D3 or pure B12 vitamins that we have without any
wow.
help from certain digestive enzymes because we're not activating the enzymes that our bodies need because
Mm,
they're being blocked by other things that we ingest or that are in our environment. So there's so many different layers to why we need to really focus on food. We need to
mhm.
focus on it to just continue to build the mental, intellectual capacity that human beings have to be able to live in community, to lower violence, to have to be one in one, one with each other. But for even education's sake, I see young kids that are just battling mental things that are beyond their control, but they don't control the food that they eat. And so we've got to
Mm.
do a better job as adults, as the next generation, making sure that they are getting what they need and that they understand what a healthy plate means and that it's not noodles, not ramen.
Yeah, sorry, I had to laugh at the noodles part because I have done that, so I can't say I
No,
haven't
I
because
mean,
I
I'm guilty. I'm
have.
guilty. I'm super guilty. But I
Yeah.
mean, I also taught biology, organismal form and function. And I had young women who didn't even understand that like the fish that they were dissecting was actually like, this is fish. They were like, what do you mean this is fish? Because they had never seen fish or a whole chicken or, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
yeah,
they'd never seen that. Chicken to
yeah,
them was like chicken nuggets or like a wing was like it didn't translate. And so we have come there's really a big divide in kids understanding where food comes from and why um it is what it is. They really do think just like they feel like money comes out of ATM, they really do think that um, food just kind of is in a store, right? Or
yeah,
is in a
yeah.
box.
Or like how James says, money doesn't grow on trees, but they think it grows on trees.
They think it grows somewhere in buckets or whatever.
Well, thank you for sharing, Dr. Rice, and I do agree with you 100%. And also it just makes me think, I think all of us do it though. All of us just get so busy in our everyday lives that we just don't even think about the ingredients of what we're eating or what we're doing. We're just like, all right, this goes into the microwave. It can be done within 2 minutes. I'm just going to shut this on. Ping, it's done. Have the meal, and the next thing you know, we don't even know what we've just eaten or what we've ingested. So, it happens all the time, Dr. Morris. So, thank you for sharing that. And my next question, this is for you, Alia, which is: how can humanity balance the need for increased food production with regenerative agricultural practices that can withstand climate volatility? So, very interesting question. I would say this is a very specific question. So this might be a little bit challenging, Alia. So I'll hand this question to you and see how you can answer this question.
Russell, I know we've just met, but I never back down from a challenge.
Oh, Alia, okay.
So this, as I said earlier, I'm in California in the Los Angeles area, and it amazes me how we can live on someone else's land and ignore the traditions that have kept that land healthy for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So I'm acutely aware, but you may be aware that we just had horrible fires in Southern California.
Yes.
Horrible. And, many communities lost their homes in the Palisades and Altadena. And there are lots of finger pointing. But one of the things that struck out to me was the fact that before the fires happened, we had decreased and in some situations banned the act of controlled burns. We thought, in our technologically advanced opinion, they were bad and wrong, unnecessary, expensive, whatever it was. Well, our land came from Native Americans, and they have practiced controlled burning for generations. They knew how to take care of the land, how to live with it, how to avoid it retaliating against them. So what did we do? We ignored them completely because we are smarter, because we have technology. And what did they do to us? Killed people, burned down homes, erased generational wealth. So when you ask me, how can humanity balance the need for increased food production and regenerative agricultural practices, it's actually not that complicated. Go back to what people were doing before. The people that actually knew how to run the land, the people who were more in communion with nature, its cycles, its rhythm. Climate volatility might actually decrease when that happens, right? Okay. And we might actually see that volatility is systemic and it goes on a cycle. It's cyclical, but we've ignored the patterns. We build cities when levees break and thousands die because we've decided we need to live there. Although I love New Orleans, right? So it's really about using the wisdom of people that we have marginalized, realizing our own error and marginalizing them as communities and as people, eating a little bit of humble pie and going back to what they have been doing and telling us to do for hundreds of years.
No, yeah, you do have a very good point, and maybe even it could be introduced into the modern day of like, okay, how do we combine what's happened in the past with the modern day and combine that together into creating, I guess, the sustainable future, so to speak, of food within Los Angeles. So we are running out of time though, so I'm going to have to move on, and I'm going to do one final question for every single person on the panel. I'm going to just ask one simple question, which is within, less than, let's just do one word. Within one word, I'm going to make this a little bit more challenging because Aaliyah, you like a challenging question. So in one word, what do you want to see for the future of food? Is it that, food everywhere? Oh, actually, let's do more than one word. Let's do like a sentence. Like as in, do you want to see food everywhere? Do you want to have like the technology to be able to help with food? Like within one sentence, basically, what would you like to see for the future of food? So we'll go. Actually, no, we're not going to start with you, Alia. We're going to go over to Dr. Morris if she's available, because I can see that she's working right now. So, Dr. Morris.
Listen, because I am taking notes. I am an educator, so I'm always going to be taking notes on what everyone's saying and
Fabulous.
researching in the background.
Love it.
But the thing that I want to look forward to for the future of food is banning harmful chemicals that we know are harmful. We know red
Facts.
food is harmful. We
Facts,
know
Dr. Morris.
that there are carcinogens in certain foods, and in other nations they don't have them. My husband's from Jamaica, and so I think about the purity of his food. Every time I go home with him, I lose a good 10 pounds. And so I wonder, so much about how much harm we're causing ourselves and how that is also going to translate to our own personal demise. So for me, bring back caring about what's in our food, literally.
Well, Dr. Morris, I've got to move on, but thank you very much. That was more than one sentence, but I really appreciate your sentiments there, because you're speaking absolute facts right there. Orestes, what's your point of view on this? What's in one sentence? What do you want to see in the future of food? Dr. Morris's is ban, all the bad chemicals that we have in our foods. What's your point of view, Orestes?
Regenerative, right?
Regenerative.
One word.
Orestes taking the challenge of one word. Okay.
but that's not a simple question to answer with one word. But regenerative captures the whole perspective of the domain. For sure, less plant protection products, because as we might have seen, plant protection products, they have risen also globally the ratios of neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's, as you mentioned earlier, and also dementia. So yeah, I think regenerative and fair, and I think those words can describe it better.
Orestes, completely agree. James, one sentence, please.
I would say nutrient dense civil rights globally.
You don't even need to say anything more, James. That does it in one sentence. Congratulations to you. Andrea, what's your thoughts in one sentence? What do you want to see in the future for food? Or the future of food, I mean.
I would say reciprocity. Reciprocity to the land, to animals, to plants, to each other, because most of the territories that produce our food, we tag them as poor, but are the most abundant places of the world. So we need to feel that reciprocity with them, with the territory and the people.
Absolutely, Andrea. And last but not least, Alia, you're going to finish us off. So what is the sentence from your side?
I'm going to do the one word as well. Equanimity.
Oh,
I would
okay.
like equanimity.
Okay. And do you want to do the sentence too?
Nah, well, yes, because we have 1 minute. So what equanimity means for me is thoughtful, reflective, balanced action when it comes to decision making around our food and food systems.
Oh, well, thank you very much, panelists. It's been an absolute pleasure having each and every one of you on the stage. Please do go and give them a follow on LinkedIn. Check them out. And also, thank you to each and every one of you. Also, thank you, audience, for watching over Gatherverse.live. And also, thank you to our sponsors at Pico for also sponsoring us and being able to support us in our summit. And up next, I believe we're going to be having a fireside chat. So that'll be coming up next for you. And that is it for this roundtable discussion. So our gather was well, and I will see you very shortly. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Hello again. is going on?
Greetings, Russell.
Greetings, Christopher. Lovely technical difficulties there, but it's great to see you again. So what a fantastic roundtable discussion that was, all about food, all about nutrients, all about, how we can solve food issues across the world, and also, how we can, even in our own foods too, when it comes to the ingredients, is that we don't know what ingredients has been put in our food. So it's a very interesting discussion. What are your thoughts, Christopher?
I thought this was a very insightful, heartfelt series of expressions. I find it so fascinating that we can have those that aren't particular artists and maestros of the kitchen, if you will, that can come in and just as an inherent human, if you will, and everyone has to eat and everyone has to nourish, and that there was so much that was just expressed. I get the real feeling that we'll have equal and even heightened sentiment as we continue to move forward progress of today's expressions. It seems to me that a lot of people have a lot of consideration. If we think about the intimacy, the relationship with food, it's with us every day, isn't it?
100%. And, also want to, think about technology and AI and how that plays a role within food and stuff like that. I think AI could potentially help solve the issue, right, when it comes to that, in terms of maybe potentially the distribution or how food can be created, or even potentially even new ways of creating even fresher food, which is not processed with all these other ingredients that have been put into it, so to speak.
I think about here in the Bay Area where I'm at in Silicon Valley, and it's agriculturally rich, and we tend to become more conscious of what we consume when it comes to non-GMO, fair trade, organic ingredients and growth. I think when you start to look at the agriculture that we have here, and we produce 70% of the produce of the whole entire United States alone. Yet we have such a high import rate from other different countries around the world. And you think about the ingredients of Europe, where you're based, and some of the mandates that are set for what they don't allow into your cupboards and into kitchens. I wonder, with this incredible demand that we have for natural resources, Russell, how much more will technology play in the growth of these resources and the distribution, deployment, and make available these resources? And then I think ultimately, as Andrea Carmago often touches on, really thinking about the internet of the earth and mycelium production networks, and what does the growth cycles look like, and how do we introduce new methods and practices when it comes to agricultural growth and scale? I think AI is going to play a substantial role in observation of how we grow from the nutrients of the earth. And I just find it so fascinating, let alone what does on-chain technology or real-world assets role play in this process as well. And then ultimately, I think if you look at trust, what does trust come into, where it comes to trustworthy, capable AI that's going to play such a productive role? And what is grown and new ways of growing? How do we trust that these models and systems will know what's well for the nourishment of humanity?
That's an interesting question. I think maybe there's two parts to that. One is when it comes to the specific ingredients and making sure that we can verify those ingredients and making sure that it's aligned and everything. I definitely think that could be one part. And the second thing as well is when it comes to the distribution of it, as in terms of where are these lorries going to, or where are these shipments going to, and how can we distribute it out further? So I definitely think those mostly are two parts to that. And again, it comes down to how do we verify that they have gone to the correct places and have have the right correct ingredients in, and two, when it comes to even new ingredients or new ways of shipment or new ways of discoverable ways of food. I mean, hell, they might even be 3D printed food, right? Which is mostly even more nutrition than any food that we have right now. So, how do we also, make sure that is verified and making sure that that's, safe to have and use and eat, and of course, science would play a big role in that. But again, AI is going to be one of those big factors for sure, and we have to make sure that, like how you said, those models remain trustworthy 100%. So
I agree. Verifiable production.
Yes.
In autonomous situations. I mean, we have whole entire night factories, as you and I know, and for those who do know, these AI night factories that are operating zero humans, they call them night factories because there's no need for lights, and they do their work in the dark, and they do it quite well. And I start thinking about the expediency of what technology often affords when it comes to movability, and how does that present itself in this world of hyperscale. And I think there will be disbalances because some countries are very up to date with AI, and then some countries aren't. But even those countries, as you and I, Russell, know from our very deep study right now of studying over 1,800,000 models with Just Verify, we know that we're still in a sense in the infancy of AI, and that there's so much more to go forward now that we're moving towards the next step of AI, which undoubtedly are frontier labs and the age of research, as Ilya Sutskever has rightfully said and expressed. And in this age of research and in this extension of reality paired with artificial intelligence and to the material layer, to the virtual layer, I do wonder, especially for 2026, because I think this is going to be the year where we see the most first discoveries of the results of artificial intelligence in a substantive fashion. I believe we'll see breakthroughs in discovery, and I wonder in what capacity will food join to the success of these discoveries, or to the detriment. And does our scale introduce harm to our food ecosystems ecologically? I'd like to remain on the optimistic side that there's a lot that we can be able to help benefit the world when it comes to the commandeering and the better understanding of using these agentic, non-deterministic systems and creating better pathogens for food. I'll say this. I remember when the pandemic hit, and particularly here in the United States, and there was the slaughter of about 30,000 chickens, and they had to discard, I don't know how many pounds of simple potatoes and onions. And what attributed to that is that all of those sources of nourishment were supposed to be delivered to restaurants and to shelves. And with the restaurants being shut down, they had no point of ingress.
Right.
And so instead of having a system where that could have gone to, I don't know how many untold number of families could have benefited from the discard of so much food and waste, that there were no systems in place to be able to allow families to enjoy such resources. And
Right.
so I'm sitting here with you on stage, listening to your incredible roundtable, and I think about these things, Gatherverse.live, all of you that are with us today. And we're so thankful to see all of you with us. It's quite a bit. And our various social streams as well. But I think about these things, Russell, who will be the next innovators that will move beyond the framework, take advantage of these tools that we have now today at the cutting edge of frontier, and do something about it, as opposed to pontificating on a LinkedIn post.
That's true, 100%. And also, when we're thinking about when we think about, and this is again very futuristic audience, but when we're talking about going to the moon and going to Mars and all this sort of stuff in the future, and having data servers outside the planet and all this sort of stuff, multi-planetary, I guess, discovery. How are we going to be able to have good, clean food on those sort of planets too? And how are we going to be able to extend that even further, not just also on our planet, but also when it comes to other planets too, that we're going to need to extend it to. So I know it's very futuristic. It could be just around the corner. It could even be by 2030. Who knows? But the question is, how can we extend our food, what we have? How can we make new ways of making food? How we can use AI to benefit that, to do the research, to do reinforcement learning, I guess, from when it comes to other AI models as well, from the research, and how do we extend that availability when it comes to food distribution and new ways of having food. So that's what I've got for you, but that's what I think too, is like, when we go to these different planets, how are we going to be able to extend it out that far as well? So
it's a great point. And I'll just say on closing, and thank you for sharing that. It's interesting, as you were saying it, Russell, in my mind, I'm thinking that which seems far away when we talk about future, if you will, I believe in some regards, it's more closer than we think. I think a lot of people, from what I see of their conveniences and things that I hear and things that we see, Russell, that I believe that some people believe that certain breakthroughs or next steps of innovation are further away, but I don't believe so. I believe that we're more closer to things of ideal than we realize. I believe that which is to come, you say on multiplanetary and the Kardashev scale, of tapping into the natural energy of a given planet, and then the energy of the sun, and then the energy of the constellations, if you will. I think we're headed more so to an unknown territory of innovation, more so than a known. And the things that are known, I think they're much closer than we realize. And once we hit the quantum breakthrough or takeoff, then, if you will, you're not putting the genie back in the bottle. And
100%.
If we haven't figured it out with food by now, at this rate, with this much deal flow and capital allotment in this world, I don't know if we get this right, Russell. And so we'll conclude there. And thank you so much for helping lead that incredible roundtable and the different speakers that were with us today. And we're heading into a next roundtable, everyone, called The Intelligent Earth, Extending the Art of Cultivation in the Age of Innovation. But first, we'll hear from our friends at Pico. May your gather be well.
Hello and greetings. Welcome to the second roundtable Gatherverse Food Summit 2025. I'm very excited to have you here. My name is Linge Tao, Communications Director for Gatherverse. And with me, I have a group of expert panelists who we are going to discuss about intelligent art, extending the art of cultivation in the age of innovation. And before that, thank you so much to the brief fireside chat with Christopher and Russell that really tackled something to do with technology. And I believe this roundtable will only go a notch higher. And thank you to the first roundtable. That was so energetic and incredible. Now, allow me to introduce our panelists for this roundtable panel. And I will begin with you, Chef Mimi. Please tell us who you are briefly and what you do, and very welcome. Please, Chef Mimi. You're muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for having me. My name is Chef Mimi, and I am the founder of the Black Food and Wine Experience. We are a hyper interactive cultural event that happens every year. We support small Black businesses within the food and beverage landscape to make sure that they have a space to grow and learn and be able to connect with audiences that support their businesses.
Wow. Thank you for joining us. We welcome you. Kate Jones, I was with you yesterday and I'm very happy to see you once again. Please tell us who you are for those who don't know you.
Yes, I'm happy to be here again. And my name is Key, and I am the founder and CEO of an organization called Reset. And Reset is where we help men, women, and the youth overcome and defeat trauma.
Right. You're welcome once again. And we have adjourned. You are here with us for Tech for Humanity. Welcome back. Tell us who you are.
Thank you for having me. I'm the founder of Visma Agrotech, and we develop an automation system for vertical greenhouses, converting them into vending machines with robotics, IoT, AI. And I'm happy to be here again, and thanks for hosting this incredible event.
You're welcome. And Arjun, please check on your audio. I feel like it's not a little bit clear. Can you check on that? But we'll come back to you. Thank you for joining us. And Brandon, this is of course not your first time, and we greet you once again. Tell us who you are.
For sure. My name is Brandon. I'm co-founder of Spatial Grow, and we're a digital twin and education company focused on really bringing up the next generation of people in agriculture. So we mostly work with middle and high school students, connecting them with farms, both in their communities and around the world.
Yes, you're welcome. We're happy to have you here. Now, before we even go into the heart of the matter, I just want to read some few statistics that I found out in regards to the topic that we're talking about. So the year is 2025, and 2025 saw an increased emphasis on robotics, AI-driven controlled systems for yielding optimization and cultivation. And there was also an increase in global indoor technologies for farming indoors, which was forecast valued at 47.13 billion. That is in 2025. And we had an increased trend on global vertical farming, that is 2025, valued at 9.66 billion in 2025. So I believe, as Christopher said during that fireside, he said 2026 is when we're going to see the implications of emerging technologies when it comes to agriculture. And I just want us to look at this in a very deep, but also humanity-centered way. All right. This is more of a humanity-centered view than technology itself. So I really welcome you, my dear panelists, to share in. And can we get started? Are we ready for that? Yes, we are. All right. So I will start with you, Brandon. Brandon, you have been in the emerging technology space for quite some time. What is true harmony between art, technology, and people? Everyone's
For sure. I think it's sort of like, eating a balanced meal. You want a little bit of everything. And so I have a big emphasis, particularly on indoor agriculture. But I've come to realize over the years, it's like traditional agriculture is also very important as well. And so making sure as far as harmony goes, making sure that we don't lean into any one solution as being the end all be all, whether that's, leaning heavy into AI to solve our problems or leaning into, more traditional methods and things of that nature. And so I think the real harmony is just trying to find a good balance between, utilizing all of our tools rather than trying to over optimize any one of them individually.
Mm. All right, that is quite an interesting perspective, and I just want to drag that thread to the rest of the panelists. Chef, you've been a chef. What's the true harmony between the technology and people and food?
I would say, in terms of technology and people and food, is really more about understanding ingredients. A lot of times people don't really understand like the basic, just from the soil in terms of farm to table, thinking about food as a way for medicine, food as a way for gathering, food as a way for connection. um, a lot of people are losing those types of things, when it comes to just like basically going to the grocery store. I mean, you have Instacart, you have all of these different sort of like devices and tools that can just deliver food right to you, but you're not necessarily connecting to like the process. So I believe that we could use technology in a different way. Um, in terms of exploring recipes and exploring different ways to gather information when it comes to foods from the diaspora. Whether it's, you're eating from a cultural perspective, you can pull up recipes, you can learn about different culture when it comes to AI and technology, but then being able to go out and get those spices, getting the products that you need to have on your table, and becoming more
Yes.
closer to our community.
Yes, Chef Mimi, you bring a very wide lens to this, whereby technology is not just about delivery. Can we just explore new recipes from other cultures? Can we come up with a different food that has never been seen before by just the reason of looking at technology? And thank you for sharing that perspective. Keith Jones, what is the relationship between art, food, technology, and people?
To me, it's when none of the three are left out. You can't leave out earth, technology, nor the people. And when they're not treated as just a disposable item, again, all three of them belong together. And also, when you don't just treat the earth like it's a resource, and you don't treat us like it's like we just providing labor, and technology like it's just a quick fix. Like, okay,
Yes.
we got this. So to me, harmony looks like tech, all the technology that we have now in our hands being used to listen to the land, not dominate it. And where our farmers' wisdom and their community traditions sit at the same table as these data dashboards and all these AI models. So if the
Yes.
earth is if our earth is healthier and people are more nourished and tech is accountable and also transparent, that's when I say we're moving towards true harmony.
That's a rich layer. That's a very perfect depiction of what a harmony is. But I just have a follow up on that. So how do you bring farmers, right? You've mentioned the wisdom of farmers and also technology. How do you bring them in the same room? Because according to my belief, it's very hard to bring farmers
It
and technology
is.
in
It
the
is because
same
they're
room.
considered our elders. Most of the farmers, they're like our elders and they hold all the wisdom. So we have to
Yes.
always to bring them to the table and to the forefront because again, they not so much into technology as us. So we cannot leave them out. Like we always like to say, the humans in the loop, we have to keep our elders in the loop as well.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for
You're
sharing
welcome.
that and putting that into perspective. Ajun, what is your take on this? I'm so curious.
I have very strong opinions on this. So, right now, there is a massive disconnect between humans and our food. So, since
Mm-hmm.
the 50s or earlier, there's been an industrialization of our agriculture. So, this is not was not necessarily a bad thing because this saved us from mass starvation with our current
Yes.
global food supply chain. However, Since the 50s, we have destroyed 70% of all life on Earth. That's life on land, life underwater, birds. 73% of all life, which is crazy. Agriculture
Absolutely
is
impressive.
responsible for 80% of the habitat destruction. 80% of deforestation is because of agriculture. And we have to simultaneously, over the next 3 decades, we have to increase our agriculture production by 70%. So we have to produce more food in the next 3 decades compared to what
Yes.
has been consumed by humankind today. So there is a big disconnect between people and our food. We are literally destroying the planet. And if we continue at this rate, 90% of all life on planet, uh, apart from ourselves, if we're doing this to feed ourselves, but we will threaten 90% of species on the planet by 2050 if we keep continuing at this rate. So there's a massive disconnect
Yes.
between people and our food, and we need to find sustainable solutions in
Yes.
order to feed the increase in demand.
All right, all right. Arjun, those are worrying facts that you shared there, right? I personally didn't know agriculture is one of the reasons for deforestation. I think that's a huge disconnect as well, something to address. But I'm gonna come back to that, and I'm coming back to you, Brandon. I'm bringing you on this. How can a balance be achieved between food, productivity, conservation, and soil and water, right? Arjun brought this clearly, and this is just a thread over to you.
I think a lot of it just has to change around the stigma and how we view agriculture as a whole. I mean, all of us have farms in our front and backyards. We just use to put grass there. And so a lot of it is, how do you sort of teach people that they can start a small garden in their homes? And if they don't want to start it outside, they can start it inside with a simple plant and then slowly work their way there. Because if we're trying to just change how big
Yes.
corporations who have to hit margins and say, hey, you should use less water and use less fertilizers and things on your fields because you're gonna, care about the environment but not make as much money. I think that's a much harder sentiment to try to change people's minds on rather than changing, 1 million, 5 million, 10 million homes where they can start growing food within their individual communities, start community gardens, things of that nature. And that in of itself would sort of lead, in my opinion, to the soil conservation and the water and things of that nature. Is just really teaching, everyday folks, hey, you can also participate in this without having to get somebody like Monsanto to change the entire way that they go about doing things. And so that's just my 2 cents with it.
Yeah, what I'm getting from you, and just to expand it, is um, if we have a system where everywhere in the world, and this is possible, where we teach each family at least have like a farm garden. If there's a space, maybe in your church somewhere, bring the church community, bring the mosque community, bring the families or the codes, or just bring them together and teach them. Let's have an initiative to teach other to do cultivation even within our home space, because that is one of the biggest trend that is happening right now. People are doing vertical farming, and I think that is one layer of vertical farming. So thank you for sharing that. Chef Mimi, do you have something to add on this? What's your take?
Yes, I do. I was thinking about time.
Yes.
Time as currency, thinking about one of the reasons why our systems, when it comes to food, has changed so much is because people are busy. And when you think about, farming, when you think about adding extra layers to, families that are already uh, stretched when it comes to their time, they just want something quick and easy. And with the quick and easy, there's a price to pay. So
Yes.
I'm just thinking about, the basics. How do we get people to just even understand how to store their vegetables, how to cook rice, how to make the basic foods that now are just, you can just get rice in a bag. There's minute rice. There's, you get a salad in a bag, you get it delivered to you. Everything is quick because of the timing. So
Yes.
from a chef's perspective, and I worked in public health for many years, um, with families that were vulnerable, thinking about how to teach them, just how to store their vegetables. Because when they would they would go to the farmer's market, they get all this fresh fruits and vegetables, but then there's like, okay, how do I store this? How do I make this stretch? It's easier
Yes.
for me to go buy, the plastic noodles and cup of noodles and those type of things, because now I could keep this for a month, but I have to reprogram myself and figure out, how am I going to stretch this lettuce? How am I going to preserve my strawberries? How am I going to preserve my blueberries?
Yes.
There are techniques, but most people miss that. So hopefully with AI and technology, people can look it up and say, I have some strawberries. How can I preserve them? Well, you can keep them for a week if you chill them at a certain temperature. Then
Yes.
when past that week, you can put them in the freezer, and then you can make a smoothie, or you can go back to canning, or, some of the sustainable things that we've had in the past, that our grandmothers and our great grandmothers were doing. We need to
Yes.
get back into those things and bring it into a cultural perspective, and thinking about it from just simple tech, getting in the kitchen, from the grocery store to
Mm-hmm.
work to the table. How
Yes.
does that process happen? So I think
Agree.
that when we think about the time and currency, and we think about what we're actually doing on a day-to-day basis, that is going to give us sort of the layout of what we're going to have on our table, and with the choices that we're
That's
going to have.
interesting. Okay. Chef Mimi, put a pen on that. That's very interesting. The balance between time and getting our fast food. Put a pen on that. I'm gonna come on that. And thank you for sharing such techniques for storing our vegetables. Dear audience, I took some notes there. I don't know about you, but Key, do you have something to share on this? Do you have something to add?
Yes, I have something to say. I'm always the one with humor, so y'all don't mind me. But I look at it like, if we would stop treating productivity and conservation as enemies, because they're not enemies. Actuality, they married. So I just want to put that little funny one in there for the audience, just to kind of make them understand. But to me, balance looks like regenerative practice, such as covering the crops, reduce tilling, crop rotations, becoming a standard, and not just the afterthought. Another thing could be incentivizing farmers to protect their soil and water through subsidies, through grants, and also market access, not just telling them to do better, while they carry all the risk, but offering all of this to them. And another thing that they can possibly use is like precision tech, such as sensors and drones, also AI forecasting. And that will help reduce the overwatering, over fertilizing, and overspraying. So like every little drop in every nutrient is intentional.
Yes.
Also, what we can grow, we can actually grow more food and protect the soil and water when we shift the metrics from yield at any cost to yield that can last for generations. So that's kind of like the balance to me.
What my highlight was when you were talking is just cultivating for generations. I remember
Yes.
what June just mentioned, and it's very worrying. It looks like we don't even have food for the next 10 years. And Key, you bring a perspective of cultivating to next generations. And June, let me bring you on this next question. And in what ways can automation enhance the lives of farmers rather than take their food, take away their livelihood? And I'll bring you this on this, Brandon, as well. But Arjun, I want to hear from you.
Yeah, great question. So, right now with our system, automation has really helped agriculture to streamline a lot of processes. And I don't look at it as a negative thing. Most developed countries are facing a crisis where farmers are retiring. So I don't look at it in a sense that automation is taking away farmers' jobs. Automation is actually making agriculture more efficient, and I think automation is the solution. We were just talking about soil depletion and resource consumption, for example. Agriculture is responsible for 92% of the world's fresh water usage. And it's with the increase in food production, our freshwater resources are depleting, and agriculture is going to demand 55% more water in the next few decades. So we have to right now. In one example is that hydroponic systems consume 95% less water because the water is being delivered directly to the root. So that's one example of where automation can optimize our resources in order to, and help us address the resource depletion and the increase in demand at the same time. So I don't look at automation taking the jobs away, but I look at automation and technology as an essential solution that has to be integrated.
That was beautifully highlighted. Brandon, what is your take on this? Do you think automation is really taking the farmers' jobs away?
No, I don't think it's taking jobs away. And I think Key and Arjun both made good points, particularly about the precision farming that I think Key had mentioned earlier as well. As far as the water issue, I think a lot of that's based on current statistics. But, if we do have technologies like that, like she was mentioning earlier, I'm willing to bet that we could reduce that percentage down, maybe even 5 to 10%, if not more, just being able to provide the plants what they need, where they need it, and things of that nature. And so, I think the efficiencies that come with automation, sure, some of it will replace some jobs, but you're still going to have people on site. And so I think the jobs, if anything, will change rather than being replaced. And the efficiencies that you get from the benefit of automation far outweigh anything that comes from the negatives that come with it.
Yeah, just to build on that, on automation, I have a case study here. I'm in Nairobi, Kenya. This is a land of tea and coffee. Majority of the tea and coffee is picked by humans. We now have automation. There are companies that are now adopting automation. That means majority of the farmers will have to go home or find something else to do. And these are farmers who have been cultivating tea, coffee for years, for generations. They have no source of income except picking tea and coffee. So what is the alternative for such kind of perspective or scenarios? What happens? Yeah,
So your question is what happens when you have automation come and replace that? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, for such farmers.
I think you turn farmers into more technicians and farmers rather than just solely being farmers, and you sort of give them the freedom to go and explore other ways that they might go and bring in additional income. And so, again, while it replaces the farmer per se, because they don't have to technically be there, I still believe that they receive the benefits of that automation, automating the processes they would traditionally do. And back to the time point that I think Chef Mimi was talking about earlier, again, in a different kind of variant, but nevertheless, it gives them more time to go do other things, whether that is, okay, how do I better store this tea or whatever it needs to be, and how do I educate the people that it's going to go to so they can do things with it that, they traditionally didn't have the time to sort of pursue. And so I think it just opens up more opportunities to go do other things rather than pigeonholing them into only having to do the farming.
All right. That's beautiful highlighter. Thank you for sharing that. Anyone else who has something to add on this before we go to the next question?
Yes, I really like to ask.
Yes,
Go
please.
ahead, Chef Mimi. Go ahead.
Okay,
Oh.
Key Jones and then Arjun.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just thinking about slow movement. And we just moving off of time. The more seasoned farmers, I would, give them more education and tools, but not necessarily switch their job. I would add it to enhance but not take away. And then the next generation, I would give them more education so that they can have those tools to move into the new technology without disrupting generations of, how of wealth that's being built by picking and, that their only income. Because I feel like, we have to give grace to the people who started and are doing certain things, our elders,
Yes.
and respect, because it's going to be a little hard for them to just jump into technology. But I feel like the younger generation would be open to working alongside them and maybe partnering in a way where it could be beneficial for both.
Yes, that was beautiful said. Before I come to you, Key and June, I want to acknowledge the presence of Lauren. Thank you for joining us. Please tell us who you are briefly as we continue the conversation.
Hi, hi, I'm Lauren. Sorry for being a little bit late. I'm an emerging technologist. I've been focusing on creating with all kinds of technology. I got a master's in virtual reality, so that was mainly Unity and game design, and working in immersive environments and simulations. And I just got my drone pilot's license, so I'm really excited about that and hoping to get into real estate photography there. And yeah, I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for having me back.
All right, we're happy to have you once again. And let's just continue the conversation. I'm gonna come to you, Key, and then Jude. What were you saying, Key? Bring it on.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to hold up the show. Chef Mimi just took my whole mind. Because I pretty much was just gonna say to not forget about our elders. We can possibly find ways to open up and introduce them to new roles, such as data interpretation, maybe even tech maintenance, advisory work, and for the youth, for those, so they can be able to stay connected to agriculture for more modern careers. So that's what I would want to add.
Yes, thank you for beautifully adding
You're
that.
welcome.
June, what was your take on this?
Exactly. So automation is not going to take away their job. It's going to increase their productivity. So think about before they would use horses instead of using manual labor for many tasks. You have machinery to do it for you. Compare farms in developing countries and compare farms in Japan or in Canada where it's highly automated. It's not going to replace the farmer's job, but increase the farmer's income and make it a more fruitful job. And another thing I do want to mention is that in both developing countries and developed countries, there is also a labor crisis in farming. In developing countries, like in India or Africa, you mentioned Kenya as well. A majority of the newer generation, they do not want to stay in the farms. They want to move to urban areas to different jobs. And in developed countries, majority of the farming workforce in Canada and the US, they're retiring. So there is also a big crisis in terms of future generation farmers as well. To this point, it will drastically increase their income, which would make it much more appealing. Yeah.
Thank you, June, for even highlighting that. That's a different angle, by the way. I see the young generation shying away from farming. Personally, I've seen that because it looks tiresome. Our ancestors did it the traditional way, and it looks so tiresome. Thank you for beautifully highlighting that. Lauren, I welcome you to the panel with this question. What potential dangers arise from depending too heavily on genetically modified crops? You can bring your perspective on this.
I think it's kind of important just to be aware of, like, thousands of years ago, like, people didn't even have toothpaste and stuff like that. So just thinking about like how they could survive without like all of these, I guess for lack of a better word, like capitalistic systems that we've put into place. I think a lot of it is kind of just creating businesses and creating ways for people to kind of get like hooked in systems and then have problems that need to be solved with Western medicine nowadays. So yeah, it's interesting because like if you look at a piece of corn, like corn looks nothing like as we would see it today, where it's like big and yellow and yeah. So I think it's just really interesting and something that we have to really be aware of and make sure that we know where our food is coming from and we know and just are aware of what we're putting into our bodies.
Yes, same as wheat was not as big as it used to be. It is right now. So I see an evolution of food. Brandon, do you have something to add on this? I want to hear your voice. What's your take?
Yeah, for sure. I think monocropping is a big issue when you have things like that. And you make perfect foods. They typically sell well and do well, and so they become widespread. And it's wonderful when they do well, but the moment you have a disease that hits those plants, you lose, uh, you know, pretty much your entire stock, depending on how saturated you are with that plant that you're growing. And so, the diversity that you have, well, the genetic diversity particularly is super beneficial by growing different kinds of plants within the same kind of, like was mentioned earlier, corn. So having multiple varieties of corn or tomatoes or whatever it needs to be. So if you do happen to have a big outbreak, you don't pretty much lose every bit of that crop, whether it's an individual farm or an entire company. So just having that flexibility is super nice by not relying particularly on GMOs.
Flexibility. That's a highlight. Chef, you've been a chef. Have you ever seen any difference in GMOs and what is the risk of depending on genetically modified food?
I mean, we live in a food swamp here in America where there's just an overabundance of food that is produced with GMOs. Um, I mean, similar to what was just discussed, I think being able to understand what you're looking at, what options you have for what's being put on the plate. Um, I think that people want to see the perfection, and so mostly the genetic modified foods are going to have the eye appeal that looks perfect. So we definitely have to get out of that sort of mindset of perfected food and thinking about food might, having maybe a lump on the side or a discoloration or it's not, it's imperfect, but it's perfectly grown because the universe has given it its rights to say like this is how it's going to grow and this is what it's going to look like, not being sort of controlled by a system or the way that people put it together. So I think understanding what real food looks like from, from the farm to the plate and imperfection being something that is perfect, will also give people the idea to say, now I think that's the most important thing in how people will identify food. They'll be able to see food that looks imperfect. They'll be able to see food that looks completely perfect. In fact, there's tier grocery store. I don't know if you guys know about how grocery stores have tiers. And so they'll have, the last tier, which would be, a grocery store that is more conventional. They'll have
Yes.
more the GMO foods because everything looks the same. You'll go to like a Whole Foods or maybe, some of the higher end grocery stores and you'll see all the imperfected foods,
Yes.
and you'll see foods that are seasonal and things like that. So I think the seasonal part also plays a huge play in like knowing this food is not seasonal, so more than likely it's going to be full of GMOs, but we have to have that awareness. And I think with technology and, becoming more, I see more and more people standing in the grocery store looking at the label more than
Yes.
ever. Um, and so I think that's a good thing because people are becoming more aware and more conscious. And with social media and all of these the technology is coming out and saying, these things are harming you. So people are a lot more aware of what they're eating than ever. And so, but again, just to kind of wrap it up, I think being able to see things for what it is, like imperfect food, will give you an opportunity to say, okay, I know that this is grown
Yeah.
the right way and it doesn't have, the GMOs as much.
Yes, you unpack it very beautiful. The love for perfect foods, there's how GMO foods are, they're just perfect. You wouldn't uh, not afford to be enticed with them. But again, when Earth brings out its natural food, it may not be the most pleasant, but it's the most healthy for your body. And thank you for bringing that. Even the part of consumers really taking note of what they're eating. Key, you were agreeing to what she's saying. Do you have something to add to that?
Yes, I was, just kind of looking at it more from again, our elders from the farmer side. It becomes like a corporate dependency to them. So, the farmers, they can become locked into seed and chemical contracts that they can't even afford to exit. And I look at that like that's economic bondage, not partnership. Also, some other risks that we can run into is unknown health and environmental impacts over time. When we tend to prioritize speed, which we all do, we all guilty of it. We prioritize speed to market over long-term research and transparency.
Yes.
Another risk is culture erosion. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Where the crops, they disappear, and along with that, we all know with the tradition disappears the stories, the rituals, and all the identities that's connected to our food. So I'm not saying that all GMOs is automatically, evil or bad, but I'm saying any intervention that centralizes power, that narrows our biodiversity and sidelines local automation, that tends to be serious scrutiny in my book.
Yes, and wonderfully said. This is just to highlight. It's not saying that GMO is
Yes.
dangerous.
Right.
That, right? It's just the over dependence of that, right? And thank you for even bringing that out. Arjun and Lauren, I'm coming to you on this as well as Brandon. How can innovation bring successful yield increases and also cultural and nutritional value? I remember Key just mentioned something to do with culture, and let me just drag that thread to you, Arjun, Lauren, Brandon. What do you have to say?
Yeah.
can
So
Okay.
with innovation and success and yield increases, we had the Green Revolution, which stopped mass starvation, right? But now, moving ahead, we can learn from the lessons of the past of pumping in fertilizers, destroying our soil. Yeah, so we can learn from the negative aspects of our innovation in the past, not demonize it, but learn from the negative aspects and move forward in a more sustainable manner, and avoid the excess use of pesticides, optimize the resource consumption. And just actually to the last point as well, with the GMOs as well, like what are we using our GMOs for? Like, are we using our GMOs for just commercial reasons to make the plants look big and beautiful? But are we can we just also use it to increase the nutritional value and enhance the taste? If we can innovate it that way. One of the when I moved as a child from in high school days from Nairobi to Canada, I remember walking into the grocery store and seeing these perfect. I've never seen these perfect looking big vegetables, beautiful, perfect looking vegetables. But then when I tasted them, they tasted like cardboard. So what are we prioritizing in this innovation as well? So yeah, I think that's something to keep in mind.
Thank you for highlighting that. Lauren, what is your take? And that example is relatable to how many of us have tasted food and they're like, what is this? What have I just eaten? It was the most beautiful food you've ever seen. But when you taste it, it's like, what was that? Lauren, what is your take? And then I'll bring you in, Brandon.
Yeah, I think it's just important to note that everything has compromises. So, like I said earlier, whenever you're not eating a corn that looks like it's supposed to, there is health benefits that are going to put your body at risk, and it'll just can potentially negatively affect you. And I think it's just really important to be aware of that. And I think with innovations today, it's a lot easier to do that. So for example, like there's a lot of apps out there nowadays that aren't perfect, but you can like take a picture of what your food is and it'll give you all the nutritional facts on it. So I think stuff like that is really, it makes it much more accessible for humans and people that are constantly using their phones to have at their fingertips more information, and they can educate themselves. And then there's even like challenges that you can do, for example, like on my Apple Watch. This is more of fitness, but you can like challenge your friends to have like fitness challenges and stuff like that, and you can get notifications. And I'm sure there's tons of apps out there where you have like community health oriented, like not exactly dieting, but you know, healthy communities where you're kind of reporting what you're eating and like sharing your food pictures and stuff like that. I know that's a big thing nowadays. Foodies like to post their pictures and like phone eats first. So and yeah, it's exciting to move in a way with community.
All right. You know, 2026 is coming. This is one of the goals you should do. Get a community challenge, as Lauren has suggested. Get on a fitness challenge. And thank you for putting that. Brandon, what is your take on this?
For sure. I think a lot of the plants that we have today, you know, you get innovation through harvest cycles year over year. But as we have things like reinforcement learning and a lot of the new tools, you can simulate a lot of that, which is nice because you can find ideal phenotypes and genotypes from plants. But I think in doing that, you take a lot of the cultural value out of it, because what you typically would, you know, your tried and true methods of just literally observing your plants and seeing how they grow over time, the more natural process, you sort of take all of that out by optimizing, you know, longer and stronger stems, better leaf productions and things of that nature by being able to simulate some of that. And so while it's nice to, in theory, be able to, you know, do hundreds or thousands of years of agriculture innovation in a few days or weeks or months, you still lose a lot of the cultural benefits that you get from growing in the more traditional ways.
Yes, I totally agree on that. There's a lot of culture being lost along the way when we're trying to innovate and moving fast. And but let me just shift gears on. The world is said to be having the scarcity of arable lands, but however, it's different from where I'm coming from here in Africa. Africa is said to being the continent with the most arable land. I can count countless times how many times I've gone to a places you see a fertile place, it's arable, but no one is farming. But this brings me to the next question. How can future food systems be tackled in areas where land ownership is disputed or undocumented? This is where also technology comes in, and I'm gonna bring you Brandon on this, as well as Lauren and Key. I believe you have a background or also a perspective on technology, but please, Brandon, please share what you think on this.
This is a tough one, and yeah, I'd be curious to hear what some of the other folks have, because I don't even think I have a good answer on this as well. Just to, you know, be honest with you, I think if you're trying to establish food systems in places where you're not really sure who owns the land, how do you sort of get started in setting up any kind of real long-term plans? Going back to the regenerative part of things, where, you know, I might have a different version of regenerative farming that Key might have, that Lauren might have, and so on and so forth. And so I don't have a good answer for it, and I'd be curious to hear what, you know, some of the other folks have.
Yeah, anyone who brings in blockchain or whatever. Lauren, Arjun, I see you, Muti. Okay, you can bring it on. Lauren.
Yeah, so with arable land, just as I mentioned, we need to preserve the available arable land. We've already destroyed 70% of all life on Earth, and the primary reason is farming. So I think instead of thinking about using replacing land that's out there in nature with farming, I think we need to look at it as enhancing local food production, reimagining how we grow food closer to the consumer, urban farms, repurposing rooftops. In Africa, there's a big issue with wildlife and farmers clashing. right? So,
Yeah.
and then I don't want to cut down forests and just repurpose the arable land. I want to repurpose urban land that's already where we've already cut down the forest and destroyed the habitat. But at the same time, we're growing it closer to the consumer and delivering more nutrition at the same time as well. So yeah, that's my take.
Yeah, yes, our time is short, and thank you for bringing that up. You know, that was beautifully highlighted. I think someone can close us up with what's their take on this. Who's that? Who's that? Kia, you the one? Or
Yeah,
is it you?
I can close us out. First of all, when you say disputed or undocumented, that's problems. That's
Yes.
trauma. Automatically when I look at it like that. So you cannot build ethical food systems on top of unresolved land trauma. That's trouble, just waiting to happen. But with all the technology that we have, such as GIS mapping and digital records, you could use that carefully to protect those vulnerable communities, not expose them to land grabbing or exploiting them. So I would say future food systems in those type of areas must be built with humility, consultation, and a commitment to repairing harm, not just optimizing production. Again, land grabbing. So that's my thing on it.
Well, thanks for that, Key. And that is it for this roundtable discussion. Up next, we're going to be having a fireside chat with myself and Amy. And this was the roundtable discussion. So thank you to all the panelists. Make sure you follow them, give them a big follow, like, etc. And that was an amazing discussion, and I gather was well. Thank you very much, panelists.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Hello and welcome to day 2 of Gatherverse Food Summit, and what an amazing fireside chat that was, Amy. What are your thoughts?
Oh my God, I'm actually glad I wasn't on the panel. I might have taken it over. Those were some fantastic questions. Yeah, everybody right on with their responses. It was exciting.
Well, this is why we have a fireside chat specifically for you, Amy. And obviously on our fireside chat, we're going to be talking about consumer safety, protecting what we eat. Extremely important discussion. So, Amy, what I want you to do is introduce yourself to everyone and tell us who is Amy? What does she do other than being a hidden customer expert? Like, is she an expert in food as well? Like, tell us about you, Amy.
Well, my name is Amy. I own Hidden Consumers Consulting. I'm an author and speaker and a food educator. So on top of working with businesses on how to market their products more truthful, I also work with consumers, and I actually teach them how to read ingredient labels based on my own journey of becoming allergic and severely sensitive to corn and corn derivatives. So I have a very, very big issue with how food is made today.
I completely agree, Amy. I'm not going to argue on that. My hands are up on that side of things. So kickstart us off, Amy. When it comes to the food production, when it comes to what ingredients are inside, like, tell us, what would you do, or how would you redo things, so to speak?
From a marketing perspective, it would really be about making sure companies are being more honest and truthful in how they label their products. Organic, we have some bare minimum standards that you have to be USDA certified here in the US. Organic has regulations around the world, so that one's mostly safe. But when you start delving into like marketing, where people are like, it's a clean product, and then you look at the ingredients and there's like a 12-page list. Is that really clean? Like, what definition of clean are we using? So really, it's how do we get to a truthful marketing stance, and so people know what they're buying.
Absolutely agree with you on that, Amy. And let's talk about food transparency for a second. why is food transparency still treated as optional, right?
Yeah.
When it directly affects the public health? Let's talk to us about that.
Well, I'm going to be very honest, and I thought about this question a long time. I'm like, do I want to go where I want to go? And I'm going to go where I want to go on this one. At
Go
the
on, then.
end of the day, we are a capitalistic country. And what that means is the dollar bill is more important than your human life. And it's hard to hear. But at the end of the day, as long as a company is making money and they're profitable, it doesn't really matter if it's impacting your health. And we're
Right.
seeing this through peer-reviewed research right now on all the ultra-processed foods that exist in the world. U.S. markets, as Chef Mimi was saying earlier, we've got the saturation of food, but most of it's ultra-processed. They're lab-created ingredients. So really, we know research is coming out that those are bad for our health, and it's causing everything from diabetes, obesity, to kidney failure and heart disease. So it's about the dollar, not human life.
I must admit, I do like some bad food sometimes. I'm not gonna lie, but
it's okay as long as it's not 60% or more of your diet.
Absolutely, Amy. So, from your point of view and from your lens, Amy, because you have a very unique perspective on things, what does eating safely really mean, right, for people who cannot trust what's on their plate? Like, what advice would you give? Like talk to us about that. Like, what does eating safely even mean?
What it means is what our food system has evolved to today is that most people who eat are actually, it was even in the British Medical Journal, they said 71% of health conditions are directly related to ultra processed foods. So the food we're eating. So what eating means is really, are you eating food that's giving your body nutrition and it's helping you thrive? Or are you eating the food that's getting you through day to day, but you're always hungry no matter how many calories you intake? Is it making you sick? Is the food you're eating the cheapest food, but you're spending the most on your medical bills? So eating safely is, are you eating food that's keeping your body as safe as possible?
So I guess you could maybe one way you could also look at is mitigating, right? Mitigating your health issues later on in life, and also in general in life, like as in a nutshell, so to speak, right?
Yep. Yeah. And it's really interesting. One of the things I talk about when I do my professional speaking is my journey of how I was one of those people. A majority of my diet was ultra processed foods. I ended up in surgery to have a lump of infection removed from my sinus cavity. It was supposed to be a super simple 45-minute surgery. It lasted 3 hours because it was so intense, like just gross. I mean, it's just gross. But reality is what that taught me is I have a food allergy. I'm allergic to ultra processed foods. And what I learned is had I not eaten a majority of my diet being ultra processed foods, I never would have known about my allergy either, because I would have been able to avoid the foods that were making me sick. Now I call my allergy lucky because I didn't end up with kidney disease. I didn't end up, on dialysis or in heart failure because of the food I was eating.
Thank goodness.
But that is one of the concerns most people do end up dealing with down the road. So yay for an allergy.
I love your sense of humor, Amy.
Thank you.
So let's talk about there's one thing I do want to talk about, and I fall for it sometimes, is the whole like organic, right?
Yeah.
Many consumers assume obviously like natural, organic, or clean means safe in a nutshell. So what are the biggest misconceptions hidden behind what looks like healthy food, but really it might not be?
Oh, okay. I just had this. I think I broke people's brains last week. I actually came out with. I was talking about.
Well, I think you're going to break my brain in a minute. So continue.
Possibly. Most yogurt on the market is ultra processed, meaning there's no health benefit to eating yogurt if you're not watching what ingredients are in it. And that is probably the best example for that question. It literally is. We all have this assumption. We see this research. If you eat this, it's good for you. But
Yeah.
like this week, I just did one on America's fake chocolate epidemic here. And it
Yeah.
really comes down to all of our food is being made in a lab. When you make it in a lab, you're getting so many calories, but no nutrition. So even though you think something is safe, you have to read the back of a label. Yogurt should really have 3 to 4 ingredients, and it should be like cultured. It shouldn't be dextrose, and it shouldn't be, all of these scientific terms that really mean it's been made in a lab.
So not even like Greek yogurt.
You've got to look at the ingredients. They can make some of that stuff in a lab. So if you're buying it just because it's a Greek yogurt, it does not necessarily mean it's safe.
Wow.
You've
Okay.
gotta flip back and read those ingredients.
See, I've already fallen for that many times because I like Greek yogurt. So
most people do, and I had a food coaching session with someone. She's like, I do all the great things. This is the yogurt I eat, and I pulled up the yogurt and the ingredients. There's 20 ingredients in the yogurt, but it's light and it's healthy yogurt. It says it's clean yogurt. And then I switched it over to like an actual clean, and I'll name Oui. It comes in a little glass jar. So Oui is like a French type yogurt, 4 ingredients, like super safe, clean. There's like nothing lab created in it, to show her the variations of what you could do. So yeah, you can't assume something is safe. Like dark chocolate isn't necessarily safe if you don't look at the ingredients on the back of it as well.
Yeah, I like dark chocolate, so
I do too, but you have to be careful.
Well, tell me something. What is one thing every food company could change, like to improve people's well-being? Like, is there one thing that you could just go to every company and say, hey, if you do this, it will help someone else's life, as in like their well-being in general?
Yeah, and that's where my company is really focused on, making sure ingredients are well described. And I really think we need to do a better job of helping people understand what's in their food. Most companies did not take me up on this offer, so now I'm just going to educate the consumer, and we can all in mass go after the companies.
Okay. Okay, that's one strategy.
Whatever. I'm here to lead the grassroots charge.
No, I completely agree. Yeah. Sorry, continue.
I mean, if you think about ultra processed foods, the biggest issue is all the hidden sugars and salts. Well, we always talk about hidden sugars. We always talk about hidden salts, but the average consumer doesn't really know what that means. How are you finding hidden sugars? What is it? What are we looking for if it has a hidden sugar in it? And that's really one of the big things. Like, tell people what dextrose is. Dextrose is moldy corn sugar. So if your diet is more than 60% ultra processed foods and you have a mold allergy, guess what you're ingesting? More than your daily value of mold. So those are the
That's crazy.
Moldy corn is a delicacy in some cultures because it's so sweet.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And that's your hidden sugar. And there's 25 different hidden sugars that don't say sugar on them. So how do we identify those and know how they're made? A company would have to be forthcoming and say, this is how this ingredient was made.
Absolutely. And I guess maybe my final question for you, Amy, is, when we talk about, later on in life and health and stuff like that, and we talk about the foods that are slowly being ingested, so to speak, like you might not necessarily see it now, like aka certain fats, basically, right? Yeah. But then you start eating a load, and then all of a sudden later on in life, you do find out, right? What advice could you give to someone in what they could do, for these slow, like, as in, like, should they cut some of it out? Should they potentially add it in? Should they swap it for something else? Like, what's just like a general advice that you could give basically to everybody, I guess, in a nutshell?
Yeah, my general advice is make sure if you're eating a packaged food, it has less than 10 ingredients. That's the first step, is to help. But really buy what you can for vegetables and fresh fruit as often as possible. The unfortunate side is you can't really even trust the stuff that's frozen. The there's still going to be hidden things in it. Like, our table sugar and table salt is 5 to 10% cornstarch. I know that because I'm allergic, but that also means that doesn't have to be reported. So not all food additives have to be reported on the back of a package. So, when you're freezing food, there's more likely they're going to add things to keep it from sticking. So just be really careful. Make sure your ingredients is less than 5. And the unfortunate side of all this is millennials we are starting to see a link between the food they eat and kidney failure. And millennials are actually passing away at 20% higher rate than any other generation. And they're the one generation that's completely grown up on ultra processed foods. So it's not.
I'm a millennial.
Check out my book. I've got the research documentation that I've been doing is consistently updated on my website for the book, The Hidden Consumer. But I'm a historian by trade, so I'm all there for peer-reviewed research. But it's really scary to see what our food is doing to future generations, and generations aren't going to make it to be the elder age. We're not going to see as much elder care because of the food we're eating.
Well, I think you just gave me some fantastic life advice there, and I definitely, since I'm a millennial myself, I best start working. Amy, though, we've run out of time, but thank you so much for joining us here at Gatherverse. It's been an absolute pleasure having you, and honestly, I'm glad that we managed to do a fireside chat because obviously there was a lot that you had to say. And up next, so before we go to up next, make sure you check out Amy. Follow her. Follow her on LinkedIn. Also, check out her book too. What's your book called? Sorry.
It's The Hidden Consumer: Uncovering the Power of Health Conscious Buyers.
Well, make sure you check out our book as well. And up next, we have Christian Brown, who's going to be the moderator, and we're going to be having around the next roundtable discussion, Nourishment: Transforming Humanity's Relationship with Food for Global Wellbeing. So that's going to be coming up next. That is it from me. And our Gather was well. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much, Amy.
Thank you guys so much. It was a fun. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Awesome. Welcome in, everyone. Hello. My name is Christian Brown. I'll be your moderator today as we talk about Nourishment, the intersection of food, emerging technologies, and well-being. And so I'm super excited for this panel. Such an important time for this summit. So thank you, Gatherverse team, for hosting this 37th Global Summit. It's so incredible. And so today we'll talk about food and well-being. And first, I just want to open up this panel with a fact that I was reading earlier today. It talked about how food is now recognized as one of the strongest predictors of anxiety, depression, emotional regulation, and cognitive performance. And so there's a clear link between food and global well-being. And so I'm excited to talk with everyone on this panel and kind of dive deeper into this intersection. So let's open this panel up just with introductions. How about we go around the room and have a short introduction of everyone, and then we'll get into our first question. So Adam, hello there. Let's start with you. Great to see you again.
Great to see you too. Hello, everyone. My name is Adam Yasmin, and I'm based in Los Angeles. I'm a former UX designer turned digital well-being advocate, and I've been a student of Chinese tea culture for the last 16 years. And these days I facilitate what I call slow tea which is an homage to Gong Fu tea. And I do that essentially with tea as a service. So essentially team building, on-site and off-site experiences for corporate partners and clients, as well as a lot of local community engagement here in Northeast LA.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Adam. Let's go with Ian. How are you, Ian?
Hi, I'm Ian Khan from South Korea. I wish this panel was conducted a bit earlier. I mean, this is 3 a.m. in the morning here.
Oh, wow. Dedication. Thank you.
I am highly honored to be here. And I mean, in terms of education, I think, food is also plays lots of a big role. So I'd like to give you some insights about that in terms of cognitive science and education. So I think education could play a big role, in enhancing human nutrition. So, okay.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me here.
Yeah, thank you for joining at 3 a.m. We appreciate your presence here. Let's go with Lynn. How are you, Lynn? Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Hello, good to see you again.
Likewise.
I'm Lynn. I am Shamama Lynn, and I am founder and creator of Cosmic Rose Wellness and relevant former aerospace engineer, blending science and spirit. And relevant to this conversation, I'm plant-based since 2017, which I never would have thought growing up a meat and potatoes girl in Minnesota. And part of Cosmic Rose Wellness is what I'm calling Cosmic Rose Eats, which is online plant-based recipes and cooking instructions for families trying to introduce more bulk cooking into their life.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you for being here, Lynn. Lauren, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? I'm excited to be back here.
Amazing.
I'm Lauren. I live in Fort Collins, Colorado, and I have been studying virtual reality since I got my master's in VR in London about 3 years ago. I'm a producer, and I've worked on a lot of different simulations and games, all kind of educational based. So I think that VR is a really great tool to teach people to learn to do a new school and to get repetition in. I just got my drones pilot's license, so I'm looking to get into real estate photography and just more cinematography in general. And yeah, I'm excited to be back here. Thank you guys for having me.
Awesome. Thanks, Lauren. Thank you for being here. All right, last but not least, Vernon, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Hello, everybody. My name is Vernon Ruffin. I'm an associate professor at Virginia Union, and I also have my own business, the Ruffin Neuro Lab. It's used for helping STEM professionals and students get into STEM careers. And I also build immersive reality spaces for the learning experience. So that's how I'm relevant to the conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I have one more pop on. Sarah, how are you?
Okay, here I am. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Demister, and I come from the world of storytelling, education, and energy, where they all intersect. I'm an actor and filmmaker, and I also worked as a teacher, teaching meditation, theater, and well-being to children, especially during the pandemic. And all that led me to create the Chin Show, which is a kids series around well-being and educating children around natural foods and their potential, and connecting them with the natural world, earth, their bodies. And my work is rooted in the belief that everything is energy, and that's how we relate to food, nature, and each other is all vibrational. So I'm really excited about this conversation. I've got really deep interest in how we can nurture a healthier, more soulful relationship with food, especially for our children who are growing up in this fast-paced, screen-driven world. I'm honored to be part of the conversation. Thank you.
Oh, awesome. Well, as you can see, we have a pretty packed panel, a lot of different experience, different diverse backgrounds as well. So let's get into this first question, which is what characteristics distinguish a sustainable, healthy, global food culture? I'm going to start with you, Adam. What are your thoughts on this question?
It's a good question. without being an expert on global food culture, what I would like to bring to this particular question is leveraging the tech that we have to focus on transparency, to focus on better agreements, perhaps even financial agreements between producers or farmers and consumers. Hopefully, cutting out unnecessary middlemen. This actually, there can be a lot of this particular question focused just on the tea industry, just on its face, because transparency is a big driving force within the tea industry, but it's still somewhat new in the last 10, maybe 15 years, and it's a very old industry with a really an unpleasant history when it comes to tea and spices. So that's kind of my brief answer that I'd like to just add to this question.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I'm gonna pose this a different question, which is how can we define what a sustainable, healthy global food culture is? Just to begin with, before we start talking about the characteristics that make it up, what does that look like? Ian, what are your thoughts? What do you believe a sustainable, healthy global food culture looks like?
I think so. Modern people live a very busy life, so they don't find enough time for having enjoyable meal together with their loved ones. So highly capitalized world, like even in Korea, people are busy preparing for their work early in the morning, and they just rush, and then they just grab some sort of like a cereal or some milk, and then they don't have enough time to have delicious food with their family members in the evening time, because they have to work late. So in my opinion, modern society needs more. We need the mental space to enjoy nutritious meals with our loved ones. I think that's the most important thing, I guess.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%. And I was reading about how just eating a meal with other people alone can improve your mental well-being, right? And so I think, Sarah, you mentioned about how we're living in such a fast-paced time in this world where everybody's on the go, from kids to adults. It seems like everyone is moving at such a rapid pace. And so something as simple as just taking time to eat with someone can already improve your well-being. So kind of dive deeper into that,
Yeah.
Sarah. How do you think that correlates with just a sustainable, healthy global food culture?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that because I was brought up by in France. I was born there, and by French people. And in the French culture, you take 2 full hours you stop work and you have a full meal at the lunch table. I mean, at the dining room table, and you really eat and digest and take a little nap even. I mean, it's like it's part of the culture. Now, I haven't been back to say, but I go back for the holidays, and it is getting a little bit more and more lost. These the 2 hours, which were 3 before, then it was 2, and now it's getting shorter and shorter. But this time, this communion with the food is so important because it reminds us, it reconnects us with the earth, and it honors the earth as a living system, not just a resource to extract from, but a source to connect with. And taking time and bringing consciousness into this connection is vital. I mean, is vital for our health, is vital for our inner peace and happiness. I think we should. I mean, we should. I don't want to say it. I don't like the should have, would have, could have, but valuing the energy of nourishment, not just the physical form of what it looks like, or what it really having. It's like a meditation. I mean, this time to commune with food is a sort of meditation, and I'm not saying like close your eyes and keep the food in your mouth, but really commune, connect, communicate with what the energy that you're intaking and that you're having a relationship with. So yeah, I definitely encourage people, adults and children, to interact with food through curiosity and joy and gratitude and consciousness. That's what I try to do through the Chin Show, for example. I think just that will help us make the wiser choice for our bodies and the earth just automatically.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so good. Thank you for sharing that in school, and thank you for mentioning France too. I spent the last couple of years in France, and Adam and I actually we partnered on a tea event together in Paris, and there is that culture of just everyone taking a break to enjoy a meal and not really rushing through, but just sitting down, enjoying that, being at peace. And there was something else that I noticed in France that was very inspiring. It was their culture around food waste. And there was this app, I forgot the name of it, but I would use it often. And basically it was this app that allowed for restaurants to give away food, like food that was left over at the end of the day for a really cheap amount. And I never seen that before until I was in France. And it made me realize, like, wow, there's so much food waste that could be used in an innovative way, right? To help people who may just not have the resources to buy a full meal, still be able to eat. Right. And that leads into the next leads into the next question, which is what collaborations can communities, governments, and innovators create to address hunger and food waste? And so I'm gonna bring that to you, Lynn.
What collaborations can community address world hunger waste? I think collaboration with grocery stores and nonprofits to collect the food is a huge, because there is so much food waste. And that's a cultural thing, but it's a corporate thing, right? There are people that would collect the food. So I think it gets even to laws then. So then it's a government thing that they make these laws that we can't give away this food. But I think using creative ways to use the food waste. And then one thing that I'm really passionate about is this idea of bulk cooking, because if you are getting a bunch of produce and it's getting near its expiration date, it needs to be used quickly. And this kind of brings in this other idea of family cooking. Like, kids need to know how to use knives instead of guns. So it's like we get all of these groceries on a Saturday, and culturally kind of tapping in the idea of food culture. We need a cooking day. Maybe that's what we do on Sundays after people go to church, is chop all the vegetables for the week and really get into this idea of food prep. Because that's another thing a lot of the families don't have time to, even if the food can be collected and then chopped on a site, like at a food kitchen, and be given to the families prep so that they can still at least practice cooking, adding the rice, adding the beans. So I think it's collaborations with the grocery stores, but at the end of the day, it's government. And I don't know if those are local rules or state laws, but it's about using common sense and stop thinking about money and thinking about people.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And I think a lot of progress can be started just within a small community, right? When you think about some of major movements that even happen in the US, right? They don't start at the government level. They start small rooms, small families, small communities. And the more that they grow, then, right, they might get to that government level. But I like what you shared there with the idea of having a cooking day within communities. That seems really, that seems like it could be really beneficial. And Lauren, you as a storyteller, what collaborations can you see between communities, governments, corporations that could address food hunger and waste?
So I was on the panel right before this, and I was talking a little bit about how there's a lot of apps that create community, and you can like share what you're eating, and you can share recipes and stuff like that. So I think that's a really good way to inspire each other, especially instead of like going out to eat or buying something that's kind of like a prepackaged meal. I think when you have these communities where you can share, like, look what I made today, kind of thing, or like, here's how I made this, and inspire each other, that's a really powerful tool that we can use. And then we know exactly what's going into our food, and that's just really great for overall awareness.
Yeah, that's so good. Vernon, as you as a educator, right? I'm sure you deal with many different people, communities. In your perspective, what collaborations do you see that could exist, if they don't exist already, that could address hunger and food waste?
Well, I think to reiterate what has already been stated, we definitely need the government involved, because they are really deciding what rules go into play. But you do need the communities to actually implement these different strategies. But you also need innovators. So people that are thinking of creative ways to use resources that are not currently being used to full capacity. As an educator, I think making sure that people have understanding of the process. I think we don't really pay too much attention nowadays to how the food actually got here. We just see the food, we appreciate the food, we eat it, and sometimes we don't even eat it all. But there's a process from its growth to its, the whole steps. And I think if they recognize that humans are involved in all of these things, it brings unity and it makes awareness. And I do agree with that cooking day, because really it's the traditions, the cultural traditions, not trying to take somebody's food from a different culture and design it to be something for mass consumption. You're losing the cultural significance of even those dishes. So I think awareness and knowledge at a young age and it being implemented into part of our society would make it sustainable and force those collaborations.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Are there any food systems that we can create from a young age that would just play into more awareness and really bring humanizing food more? You, Sarah, you work with kids. Are you
Yeah.
seeing that, or?
Yeah. Well, I worked in French schools actually in Los Angeles, and being in Los Angeles, the weather permits, and this school did have a garden, and I thought that was really, really lovely. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of. It's been a little put to the side, and math curriculum took over, which math is important, but we can also have a balance. So I would say partnerships between schools and farms that teach kids the energetic cycle of food, from soil to seed to sprout, like really get them involved in that like not as an after school program, not as a if we have time, not as a there's some sort of little garden over there at the in the back of the school. No, like really being part of that cycle. I think would be really important. And if the school doesn't have the grounds to do that, they can always bring in something indoors like a herb garden, just to get the children connected to that cycle of life. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I was reading and I learned that kids who garden are 5 times more likely to eat vegetables, right? So that's how crazy is that? And then Lynn, I saw you just said that one of your core memories was making green eggs and ham in kindergarten, right? It was like that was a core memory for you. So talk about that. How did for one, how did that become a core memory, and how do you think that has affected your relationship with food over time?
Maybe it's just because it was green, but I mean, I think the bigger thing was I had a mom, a stay-at-home mom for a big part of my life that cooked every night. We had a cooked meal. So I grew up, and sometimes it was, the vegetables were always from a can. Very rarely did we have fresh vegetables, but still it was that idea of seeing the preparation. And then in this one, I think we actually made it ourselves, right? So we just like squeeze the green food dye in. But there was just something that about that memory of of all the memories that I have of kindergarten, the biggest one is around food, right? We made some sort of meal, which we probably didn't do much of, and then we ate it, and it was felt really good.
Yeah,
with the kids gardening, it needs to be a mandatory. It's as important as math.
Yes.
You can map out the area that you need to make the bed and how much volume of dirt you need, and so much math in gardening. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And then what's the relationship there between just physically having to use your hands as a kid, right? Having to use your hands, create something, and then eat it and feel that nourishment, feel that strength from it. It makes me think about just the process of making tea, right, Adam, which you're an expert in. Like, what is the relationship between having that entire process from finding something, curating it, heating it, boiling it, mixing other things, and then, intaking it and having this effect on your body? Kind of how does that system work?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it also parallels this question that's in front of us right now on the screen. The story of tea is the story of human collaboration. Every single part of tea, the fact that I'm drinking this particular tea right now. The fact that it came from Yunnan in southwest China, which is very far away from Los Angeles, not just geographically, but also culturally. The fact that what I'm drinking and how I'm preparing it had involved so many people, so many hands. The fact that it's not just tea, but also food. It really involves human beings, like as Vernon was saying just a few minutes ago, it's to move beyond just seeing the food in front of us, like what kind of be able to track that story of how the food got there, where it was grown. If you are buying, even here in Southern California, if we're buying blueberries in the grocery store right now, it's likely because of the season they're coming from Chile or somewhere really far away, because we want to have that access to blueberries in an off-season time. So it's like tapping into our own innate curiosity as human beings, like, what's in season? What season are we in right now? What is grown in season? How can we access that or highlight, those foods or those vegetables within season? Like, is there a farmer's market nearby you? Maybe there is. For instance, with me and my family, we go even beyond a farmer's market. There's an urban farm that's part of a magnet high school. So talk about gardening as curriculum. I think it's really much a part of this technical high school here nearby us in Northeast LA. So I'm there every Saturday morning to engage with the CSA. And so all of which to say, again, not just what you asked, Christian, but regarding this question, it's like really remembering and highlighting in more ways than one, the fact that, food creation or food distribution or food growing, like, involves actual human beings, not, it's sort of stripping away these labels of like consumers or users or like just numbers, and just like having to navigate all these systems through just purely capitalistic, vernacular. It's like we're all human beings from the soil all the way to, to our plates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, beautifully said. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm curious, Ian, bringing this to you. You being in Korea, are there food systems that are specific to your culture that you feel like really prioritize human dignity and nutrition or cultural identity?
I would like to focus on the parts of hunger. Like many people are still
please.
like hunger, and then while lots of like a huge amount of food is being wasted. But the thing is, like we have lots of fancy technologies, AI, and lots of like management information system and all these things, and then we don't really fully utilize these technologies for distributing food, like to the world, and especially where there are many people who are starving. Especially, if I think about the knowledge or the skills of farmers and fishers, they are not really knowledgeable, and they are not familiar with the decertifies or this like literacy. So I think governments and communities and like even like innovators needs to help that, like so that they can learn more about the digital system, and this they can connect and they can share their the information about supply of food and production and distribution stuff. And then, if they fully take advantage of this sort of technologies, I'm pretty sure lots of parts in like in terms of hunger, and these sort of problems could be like much more alleviated, I think. But unfortunately, like seems like there are not many innovators who utilize this sort of system, and there are not. It seems like there are not many governments who fully educate those people in the primary industry. So I think that's what we do right now.
Yeah, and that's really good. And I'm hearing this common thread of education in all of these responses, from educating children in the classrooms or in gardens, from governments educating farmers like you said, Ian, on digital literacy. It seems like education is a common thread in these responses, which I find really interesting. And I want to bring it back to Vernon as an educator. What do you think are some, I guess, some methods or strategies that just humans, even if they're not educators by trade, right? How can they, even in their families, just be more intentional about education when it comes to food systems, when it comes to cooking, hunger, waste? Like, what role can we play just as humans in educating about food?
I think food in general, just the concept of the process needs to be woven into everyday society. So, like when you talk about fruits, for example, or anything that's grown, there should be some type of, I'm imagining as a professor, like instructional thing that gives the origin of the whatever. So you know what actually you're eating and you know how to recognize when it's not that. And I think when you talk about, different ways to get food, they should be aware of, take a trip to a farm and see how the process has actually taken place. Talk to the farmer, talk to the people involved in the process so that you can see as a kid that this is actually even an option for your career, and not even your main career, but just as a person, you should have the ability to grow and produce and be sustainable, at the very least, with things that you enjoy eating. I mean, like potatoes, for example. And in school, I think it starts with those simple projects where you get a seed and you try to grow the seed, and then you learn about photosynthesis and you learn about all the different things that go into the cellular processes that eventually we're eating and it becomes us. So I think seeing the connectivity is important.
Yeah, no, that's so good. And I didn't realize this is one of the questions that was given before this panel, but it is, how can food education become a daily practice in families and communities? So Vernon, you just spoke to that, and then Adam, you shared in the chat that your daughter's a part of a charter in LA where there's a side yard full of veg and herbs that they've been cultivated over the past 3 years. So just you as a parent, how have you seen that type of food education just inspire your daughter and cultivate her relationship with food?
Yeah, just to keep it brief. I mean, it it sort of removes the abstraction. It's not a product that's just in a market. It's also something that we've grown, or you've grown, or you've brought back from school, or we talked about. Like sometimes there are like bank holidays, breaks in between, somewhere interspersed throughout the school year, and so there might be like camps at the side yard garden for a couple days within this, let's say, week off. And so like it creates that continuity, so that that's always somehow in some way that remains a constant. Like at some point, like hands are in the soil in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. And Lynn, what are your thoughts? How do you think food education can become a daily practice? You gave a few ideas, but what are some additional ways?
Well, the one thing that came to mind is like getting really deep and stepping into the shamama vibe and like letting go of this notion that there isn't enough time, because time is a construct and we will have time for what we create time for. And these bodies are our temples. And so there is actually nothing more important than food. And so whether it's a 5-minute practice of kids picking some I'm using AI. I'll be like, I have this in my cupboard. Give me some recipes that I can make. So I'm like making my own recipe based on what I have that day. For me, it's vegan, like baked goods that are using fruits and stuff. So the idea of using technology, 5 minutes a day, have your kids pick a recipe. The idea of gratitude over food. Gratitude for our food is going to change the way we eat, because when we're grateful for our food, we're grateful for our body, and there will be a natural shift in energy to want to nourish ourselves more. So it's really about the mindset and first making the choice that it's more important, because I don't want to be the Debbie Downer, but like Amy, your fireside chat is like, the food system is corrupt and evil. There is no BSing that. And so we need to override it at a family and a community level, because they're not going to change the shelves until there's a really big tipping point. And so it's changing the way we cook, changing the way we shop. And it is really uncomfortable. It is a lot, which is Lauren recognized online communities. We need support, moms, the ones that do the cooking, the ones that are coming up against the people that love the Doritos and like in the house. So it's, it is a community and a family effort. I am a single person and I don't have children. And that's why I'm able to have a really high vibrational, strict diet. And when you get kids and partners, and it really changes, because we do need to eat as community, but when everybody has different likes and different ideas, it gets challenging. So I think daily practice 5-minute conversations about foods and outcomes as a family, like what do we want as a family, and then making little choices not to buy that thing, to buy this thing, and allowing a slow evolution, because us humans, we have such an all or nothing, the first of the year we set these, we're going to change our diet and do everything different. And for me, becoming a vegan was a 5-year, from the first day I decided I wasn't going to eat meat to the last time I ate meat was 5 years. And then it was like another couple years. It was like, I never put pressure on myself. I knew where I was going and I just kept going there. And I kept making each meal a choice. So
yeah. No, that's so good. And you really highlight that education is a lifelong process, and big changes can be made with just small steps, right?
Mhm.
1,000 steps starts with one. So love what you said about just 5 minutes of just talking about food, or taking a short moment, 30 seconds to express gratitude for your food, right? It doesn't have to be these really big changes right at the beginning. They can really start small. So I'm glad you shared that. I believe in that. And Sarah, I want to bring this to you. What do you believe are some ways that we can integrate food education as a daily practice? Is there some of that through the Chin Show? And if so, like how? Kind of talk and share that with us.
Yeah, well, I'm all about that. I want to add a few things. I'm going to bring in the French culture again, just because they're heavy on the food culture. Because I experienced school, like the cafeteria in France as a kid, and then a cafeteria in America, because I did both systems. And in France, we would have, the entree and the main course and the dessert, and it was all food that, non-processed foods. It was, cucumbers and tomatoes and like mashed potatoes. I mean, it was like real food. And then when I got here, and then we had, an hour and a half. We had half an hour to eat and then an hour to go play and digest. And then here was a completely different, it was, it was like we had choice between 3 processed things, like a processed pizza and things that just were very appetizing anyway. And also I want to mention, when you get to college, you have the colleges, or the neighborhood in the colleges are a lot of like fast food places are strategically placed there. When you go to Pasadena City College, you have Jack in the Box and a thing, you have like 3 fast food places, and that's not right. That's a big issue, I would say. And I think we would benefit so much from uplifting indigenous, ancestral, local knowledge, which carry the energetic wisdom about balance and seasonability. I studied. I have just to backtrack. My mom. I was the first of 3 children, and my mom, when she had me, she's like, "Oh, she did everything right." So she fed me very natural foods. She would go to farmers market, and so I had that base. And then throughout my whole life, I've always been healthy, but I've always ventured and checked, the raw food thing, and then vegan, and and really try to understand like what my seasons were. And I studied Ayurveda, which is it's the ancient shamanic Vedic system of eating healthy and based on the 5 elements. And it's all about, depending on your body type and the season and the time of day and all that, and where you are located and what you have access to. That was a fascinating study that really brought a lot of answers to questions I had in terms of what to eat. And that with all this experience and this education that I went through by myself, really, and learning about all these ancient cultures and ancestral wisdom, I infuse the Chinsho with that because I want to offer children options. Like, you don't have to, you have options, and empowering them with a choice, because I believe that if the child has a class time where they put their hands in the soil and grow a plant, and then they go on the computer, now they have a choice, like what feels best. Because when you are connecting with earth and the vibration of soil, you have that in you. And then when you get on the iPad or your phone, when it's too much. Like, you start, it's a different vibration, it lowers, but we have to give them the choice. We have to introduce both to them, or else there's no choice, and that's disempowering. So that's what I want to do with the Shinshu. I'm not telling what to eat, what to do, but I do want to introduce things that are not introduced in general mainstream culture or even at school.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that so much, because with more options, when you discover more, your mind expands and you have a wider perspective, and then you have a easier decision. Not even an easier decision, but just a wider, I guess, list of
Intuitive.
options to choose from. Yeah, it could be a
Intuitive
more
decision, yeah.
you have an intuitive decision. That's 100% right. And so we talked about like the education part of things and how we can just incorporate food education to children, and how even governments can play a role in that. But now let's talk about some of the risks that we're facing, or our young people are facing. And this next question, I'm going to start with you, Ian, for this, and then go to Lauren and then Vernon. But the question is, what are the long-term risks of raising generations who know food through packaging and screens rather than soil growth and seasons?
I mean, I guess, I mean, if they just consume like packaged food, or like processed food, I mean, which means they're not gonna have enough time with like their friends or family members. Like, I mean, which means also they are not gonna find enough time for sort of like the time for sharing love, and then playing with each other, and then having a quality time. So I think with this sort of generation, with this sort of mindset, I think the society will be also like continues to be individualized and capitalized. Like, and we need to kind of change our society using our like AI technologies. I'm pretty sure like human labor can be say like leveraged by this sort of technology, and then we can have more time, and then still creating lots of social values, and sort of with enough income. Hopefully, in the future, I think. I mean, many experts have mentioned about the concept of UBI, Universal Basic Income. So, as probably in the future, as we have sort of basic income, we might have enough time to have a delicious, nutritious meal together with others, rather than just working like a dog all the time. So, I think, yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Amazing. No, thank you for sharing that, Lauren. Bringing this over to you. What are some of those long-term risks of raising generations who know food through packaging rather than actual soil growth and seasons?
So a big one is just not really knowing where the food comes from, and this also reduces environmental stewardship. So it's harder for people to make sustainable choices in the long term, that being for our own bodies and for the environment. And whenever you understand the process of farming and stuff like that, then you understand like what goes into it, and you can appreciate it better than whether it's just made in like a factory. And then also most of the packaged foods are just really high in sugars and fats, and they're ultra processed, which isn't good for us. And they have less nutrition, so lower fibers and micronutrients. And then this end result contributes to like obesity and heart disease, which is one of the leading causes of death and the biggest problems in America today. So I think having the awareness of knowing that the less processed our foods are, the better it is for us and the longer and healthier life we're going to live is a good overall goal that we can work towards. And with screens, I just think it's really important to have social interaction and that also be going outside and playing. And you're never too old to play. Like even as adults, I think it's important that we go outside, we spend time in nature. We just got our first snow here for the first time and it's really beautiful outside. And I think that just going outside and like taking a walk around and getting fresh air, especially like if you have a dog like I do, is really important. And it's just something that fuels my soul. And I think that the more time that we spend on screens, the less our attention's going to get. And we're just going to lose touch with that. And I really think it is important to actively spend time outside with your friends and family and people that you care about.
No, I agree. And food is a great way to do that. Food is fun, right? Making food is fun and getting your hands dirty is fun. Trying new ingredients, new spices, all of that can be fun if you take the time and let it, right? And so unfortunately we have to wrap this up, but I want to ask one last question to everyone and go around the circle here. And just a quick thought, whatever comes to mind with this question here. But the question is, how can communities reclaim healthy, mindful eating in our society, a society focused on speed, convenience, and economic demands? Let's start with you, Vernon.
Well, I think that if people just slow down and just, I think people aren't as patient as they used to be. And so if they can just take the time to be patient, then they would recognize that all of the steps involved are actually necessary. And to learn actually what's actually happening at the nutritional level, they won't really respect nature if they don't understand the process that we need nature in order to be sustained and alive. So I think knowledge and just, making sure people are aware of what's happening is the key. And communication also.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Vernon. And I'm getting notes that we have to round this up, everyone. Unfortunately, I know, but this has been a great conversation, and I encourage everyone watching to connect with everyone here on the panel, and panelists connect with each other as well. And Gatherverse team, thank you again for hosting us all here, and looking forward to the next one. But thank you all for joining with us today. Our gather was well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Choose life-giving foods. Choose life-giving foods.
Yeah.
It's so important if you want to stay alive and empowered.
Yes.
Yay. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
See you guys.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.
I'm David Benjamin, director of the Metal Layer Initiative. Imagine walking into a cake shop in the 1800s. Every cake is one layer. That's all anyone's ever known. Flat, simple, sweet. Now imagine describing a wedding cake or a cake with multiple layers. People would think you're insane until one day it becomes normal. Expected, the new standard. Today's web is still the 1800s cake store, one flat layer, even though the world is more complex. Now we're entering a world where AI agents and AI browsers don't just show you pages, they order for you. Convenience becomes the illusion of safety. We stop asking questions. But who are these agents aligned to? Who trained them? Who groomed their rankings? We're not just consuming food. We're consuming someone else's incentives. Supplements with bad intentions, contamination alerts that we never see, influencer health claims with no context. This is the new SEO, shaping the mental models of AI agents. And here's the hidden problem. Unless you prompt perfectly, AI is going to take the easiest path. But food decisions are never simple. You'd actually need multiple agents, one for supply chain, one for nutrition, one for ingredient interactions, one for ethics, one for contamination alerts. So when companies sell us one personal agent, just remember, they're giving you a flat cake for a layered problem. We don't replace the web. We add layers above it. Contamination overlays, sourcing provenance tags, expert context on influencer recipes, supply chain trails, allergen and interaction warnings, community notes. The meta layer is where trust becomes visible, where consent becomes active, where AI becomes accountable. It's the layer of frosting and structure that the original cake was missing. We used to expect the web to be flat. We used to expect AI to be magical. But if food is the most intimate thing that we put into our bodies, we deserve more than flatness and guesswork. The meta layer gives us a civic kitchen above the web page where claims get context, agents get boundaries, and people get the truth. Because in the era of AI, truth isn't just an ingredient, it's the whole recipe. For more information, check us out at themetalayer.org. Join as an individual or a partner organization if you'd like to help us shape the next level of the internet.
As quick as it comes, as quick as it goes. Gatherverse Food Summit has now concluded. We've had a week filled with summits of Money Summit and expressions on food at an incredible intersection of emerging technologies of innovation. Innovation that's not just held with hands and implemented in keyboards, but innovations of expression of creativity of the mind. We never want to forsake our capacity to be able to think. Yes, I can use a model to be able to ask for what's next. But the capacity to think with my own database in the confines of my own mind is extraordinary, if you will. To be able to go towards the next journey, next step. Sacagawea, Lewis and Clark, Ponce de Leon sought a new country and rolled the dice and landed. It's a lot like business. You'll innovate and you'll build something for yourself or for everyone and with intention for the world. But yet only a few may ever hear it, use it, see it, feel it. Because it takes money, it takes tremendous effort, and it takes community, And it takes so much more for this thing that you're innovating to be felt, held, and heard, seen in today's modern world. But what if it could be different? What if community superseded that which what we've come to know, the entanglement of social media and the amalgamation of algorithms that we find ourselves in? What if there was a way for us to be able to be recipients of information in an expressed fashion, of good information about food that's actually good for us, healthy for us? And what if all the things that you innovate and that you built were subjected to a marketing budget? How do I find you? How do I know you? The speakers presented before you this week and today, find them, hear them, journey with them, bond with them, share with them, chop wood in this wide forest with them. We only do this together. Humanity first. The arrival and the ascendancy of machines is real. And contrary to misbelief, it will be persistent in how we operate and function in our daily lives. This will impact our food. This will impact currency, universal basic income, and universal basic services are almost mythological at this point. Post-labor economics is a very difficult thing for the staunchest leaders of the world to be able to wrap their mind in, be it at the World Economic Forum, UN, everywhere. When people aren't receiving money and work, they're not paying taxes. And how are governments supposed to be able to socially sustain based on the impact of big tech innovation? How are we supposed to fuel the startup dreams of the next generation under the systems in which we abide in now? If we're disrupting technology when we need to disrupt systems so that it could be more fluid, better, so that money is easily translated and ascertained so that we can create healthier environments for buy, sell, and trade ecosystems, and ultimately that can lead towards greater sustainability, natural resources, and a plate at the end of the night. Gatherverse represents a multitude of different topics and subjects, and we have our book summit next week. And it's time to talk about authenticity of authorship. It's time to speak about how the stories are now going to change and are changing right before our very eyes when it comes to the use of artificial intelligence that we all use in our writings. Then we head to the Superhero Engine in January. Shout out to the Superhero Engine She Summit, which is looking to be the biggest summit that Gatherverse has ever had. Will be strong in January. AI Summit in February. GV 2026 in February. We have an incredible Women's Health Summit. And then we have an incredible Education Crisis Summit. It's time to speak about education. These are not conversations of hype. This is one of the very few organizations in the world that enables to be able to allow and to gain and to aggregate so many different minds per year to be able to share and to express with one another, to be able to allow us to understand what's happening beyond media algorithmic lines, to be able to hear from you, your database, I don't only want to hear from Gemini 3. I don't only want to hear from GPT 5.1. I want to hear between the confines of your mind and the database of what you have to share with me and what you have to share with the world, because it's important, and that your voice expression means more than me than a subscription of a 1099 AI model. And that heart power, at the end of the day, is the most essential ingredient for incredible innovation. Thank you for staying with us at Gatherverse.live. Thank you for joining us at various social streams around the world. There are many of you that are watching, and we don't see you. But my goodness, heart to heart, you are appreciated. And you'll always have a friend here at Gatherverse. I promise you this. Every single person that works behind the scenes at Gatherverse works with the intent to be able to give the world a good production of voices that come together to speak, express, and hopefully with each word, share from their heart. We're thankful to be able to help serve in such capacity. We're thankful for Pico. We're thankful for Universe.Earth and Dr. Robin Rise and other sponsors that are on their way that are helping us afford to keep the lights on, these studios on, and to be able to help make a difference. We're so thankful for each of you speakers and each of you attendees, and that share the story, that help carry the fire, that help share what you've heard, and that you've given us your time, which you'll never get back. We don't take that for granted. That is also heartfelt. My only request for you is to tell a neighbor, tell a friend, share with a family member, tell a stranger the things that you've heard this week. Don't let them stay here in the digital pixelated reality. Bring them to the material layer and let them scale. Everyone has a part to play, and they must be allowed to play them. What will your role be? Post-gathering. Our gather was well. And for the next time that we join each other in global community, in preparation for great exploration and discovery, in the hyperscale world of reality that we find ourselves in innovation, may our gather be well. Take care. Farewell. Good night, good morning, and good day.
Now the only he's satisfied is when he's on a drug. Oh, mothers, tell your children not to do what I have done. Spend your lives in sin and misery in the house of the rising sun. Well, I got one foot on the platform, the other foot on the trail. Going back to New Orleans to wear that ball and chain. Well, there is a house in New Orleans they call the Rising Sun, and it's been the ruin of many a poor boy. And God, I know